Hi. Hello. Hello. I'm back. We're doing a long view. Hello. Happy Monday. Hi, hi, hi. Can you guys see me? Can you hear me? Are we good? I'm late. I am late. And let me know if I'm lagging because it is a rainy day here. And for some reason, I'm over StreamYard. I told you guys I might be switching. But, anyways, regardless of that, hello. Hi. Hi, hi, hi. I'm excited to be live tonight. I kind of need this. It's been a long day. Don't get me started on being petty. Anyways, let's get started. Hello, welcome. Hi, happy Monday. I hope you guys had a great day. We are continuing Mackenzie text. It's a late one. And I'm excited because I usually am on a little bit earlier and I do kind of like the late nights as well. But tomorrow I am going to be doing early day lives. I'm thinking of doing an early Mackenzie live and then one in the afternoon. So it's rainy here where I'm living, and I just am in the mood for like true crime. So I'm thinking tomorrow might just be like a true crime day, stream all day kind of thing, hang out. So if you're available, please, 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 please turn on your notifications, come hang out. I will be covering Ellen Greenberg. I have two other lives planned as well. And then, of course, Mackenzie text. So last night we left off on, thank you for being here, by the way. We left off on, and I'll say hello to everyone, but housekeeping. We left off on August 23rd of 2021. And so we're going to finish that and we're going to get all the way through September. We're doing it. We're just doing the whole month. So anyways, let me say hello to everyone and then we'll get started. I usually stream the other way and now we're doing this way and I like to mix it up. So yeah, that's what it's about. Thank you for being here. Like I said, let me say hello to everyone in the chat. I saw Tia Marie, I saw Alicia, I saw Debbie, I saw Ash, Cree, Abuelitas, Michelle, Yvonne. Okay, okay. Gabrielle, God Family Country. Can hear you fine. Okay, Yvonne, Marvin, Valerie, Vanjie. Okay, everyone's here. Oh, thank you. You guys are so sweet. I wanted to come on here and like vent, you know? I want to start doing like those kinds of streams. Because I swear I could literally write a book about my life. And you know, you have to be vulnerable to do those kinds of things. And then I don't want to be judged, but I'm judged regardless, anyways. But yeah, sometimes I'm just like ready to talk some shit, but like, you know, it's about Kenzie tonight, so let's just get through those texts. Let me pull them up. Hold on, my screens are everything's acting up. I'm acting up. Everyone's acting up. Okay, let's get started. I'm gonna try. Hey, Chris. Hi, hi, hi. Okay, me too, girl. Yeah, I know, right? Anyways, let's continue. Hello, Robert. Thank you for being here. Corella, Shirilla. Thank you, Debbie. Hello, Debbie, Debbie. Debbie's always in the comments showing love. Please, please, please make sure to hype also. And thanks, Abuelita. Abuelita says, I love, oh, thank you. You guys all love my little flannel. It's cold. It's like the first day it rains. And I'm over here acting like I ain't got nothing better to do. Okay, let's see. August 23rd, 7:25 a.m. She says, wait, let's go back a little bit. I always have to go back. Okay, there we go. My computer is freezing. If at any point you can't hear me, or I go dark, it could be internet issues. StreamYard has been sucking lately. YouTube's also been on one too, though. Let's see. And if you guys missed the Kyron Lacey live, please, please, please go like and watch that. I'm really into that case right now. Well, yeah, it's kind of a case. I don't know what she left off on. She says they're not home. Dom says maybe I can ask my dad. She says, are we not eating? Okay, on 8:23, Kenzie says, I have like no bud, babe. Leave me a little when you leave. He says, I don't got nothing on me. He says, stop by after school. Kenzie says, I can't. He says, why, babe? She says, Polaris? He said, after school, babe. You stopped by for bud before. Let me check in with you guys because you guys might remember. Oh, thank you. Yes, Kelly, catch up on that case. Thank you, Babelets, for being here. Yay, Nag, I'm glad you made it. Okay, all the Babelets are here. Which one will be bitchy tonight, Mackenzie or Dom? Or Melly? Who knows? Who knows? Okay, anyways. She says, I was asking for Bud after high school. Dom says, oh, I don't got any here, and I got to dip and go to Guitar Center. Could you stop by before Polaris or after Polaris? She says, babe. He says, what's up, babe? At 2:16 p.m. She says, send Babyface Ray ticket info. He says, just look it up. He says, Babyface Ray House of Blues, Cleveland. She says, just want to go. Oh, I want to go. Typo. He says, me too, but do you need COVID shots? She says, I hope not. He says, we'll have to check. How is Cedar Point? She says, it's going good. It's not busy at all. He says, I want to go with you. We need to go on the Maverick again. She says, literally, I'm down any day at 7 p.m. She says, I'm kind of scared of it, but I'm down. Dom says, what are you guys riding? She says, the baby ride, like the scrambler and shit. He says, that's still lit. Let's go tomorrow or something. She says, I'm on the way home at 8:21 p.m. He says, want to chill when you're back? She says, yeah, let me pick out an outfit, then you can come. He says, why you gotta pick one first? She says, because you will get mad at me if I ask for help. He says, LOL. And then it goes into the next day at 7:13 a.m. He says, her dude must be weird as hell. They both gonna end up with an STD effing A Brown's player. Kenzie says, LOL. Dom says, yeah, she's for the streets. Kenzie says, she is, but that doesn't mean I am. Dom says, she gon' get used and spit out. Kenzie says, she's still cool. Dom says, yeah, she's cool. Some of that shit ain't right though. If you started trying to do anything like that, I'd be bothered. Kenzie says, I'd never. I love you. Dom says, I hope not. That would break my heart. What are they talking about? He says, I'd rather have you break up with me. LOL. Just remember, you're like the couple friends you're around the most. That's why I hang around people who stay getting big money. I'm on the phone with the company. She says, oh. He says, for clothes. Is it an emergency? Oh, she was probably calling him. She says, no. I thought you were not okay. I wanted to check in. Dom says, oh. I'm off the phone now if you want to call. She says, I have a job interview at 3, then I'm going to come hang. He says, okay, babe. He says, at 2:09 p.m., should we go to Carnival? She says, sure. He says, I don't know how much time we'll have. It ends at 5. She says, just let me know. He says, okay. We'll go to fair this weekend. It's only open till 5. He says, you want surprise dinner tonight? She says, I'm down for whatever. He says, or let's go to the beach. It's like 90. She says, pick. I want to have fun. He says, I'm not good at picking shit, but I say beach because it's like 90. I don't want to be inside or swimming, but I don't know where. She says, I'm down. He says, I bet. You want to just go me and you, or you want people to go too? I'm down for either. I hit up Kyle, but he didn't answer. She says, WTF? Kyle's literally a PUSSY. Everybody is so boring, she says at 3:20 p.m. Dom says, LOL, right? All my friends kind of faded. They either worked too much in college or got a shitty girlfriend. Kenzie says, oh, they're just boring in general. He says, yeah, that too. She says, bruh. He says, when you dip in, I gotta move my car. Your lights are on. And then it jumps to the next day. Oh, he says your lights are on the next day at 7:18 a.m. He says, what are you doing today at 3:05 p.m. on the 25th? She says, I don't know. He says, do you want to chill? She said, Nat wants me to come to her house and watch a movie with her, but I can't bring my bong. Dom says, I was going to say it's rainy. Let's go to movies. LOL. She says, Nat wants to do that tomorrow night with me, you, and Vince. He says, oh, okay. Well, you can go watch movies with her if you want. If not, let me know so I can run some places. Kenzie says, I'm saying tomorrow night. Did you not read? I don't know what I'm going to do today, though I have to study. He says, oh, I thought she said go to her house for movies today and we'll all go tomorrow. I thought this was today. She says, can I bring a pen? Can you bring your pen? He says, yeah. She says, would you get me she's hot? Would you get me Sheets chocolate baby? She says that at 9:53 p.m. She says, babe. He says, maybe. She says, please. She says, babe. He says, ugh, I gotta shit and I'm tired, babe. Oh, I gotta do shit. Kenzie says, please. He says, okay, babe, but it's gonna be a bit. And it's already 10:31 p.m. She says, question mark, question mark, question mark. He says, on the way to Sheets. She said, hurry. He said, I am. I just had to go hide the key from my dad, count money, and get all my shit. Which one you want? He says, wait, so now it's going into the next morning. So he says, I just hid the key from my dad. And that was at 10:33 p.m. on the 25th. And then it jumps to the 26th. Which one you want at 7:59 p.m.? He says, blonde, premium, or salted caramel. Then it jumps to 2:24. And he says, how was your nail appointment? Let me check in with you guys. I have never been so invested in a series of videos like yours ever. Oh, thank you, Nag. Happy you're here. Thanks for being here. I love this fam. Group hug. Group hug. Oh, hey, Ace Marine. You were creeping. Because I'm creeping. Oh, yep. Okay. Hey, Mallory. Okay. Let's continue. He says, how was your nail appointment? Oh. Oh, he said, and then he said eyelashes. She said, yummy. He said, yummy? She said, babe, she wants to spend more than 200 because those are the shitty seats. How much can we spend? Dom says, what venue is it? She says, Rocket Mortgage Field House. He says, I have never been to one. In what city? She says, look it up. We need to buy tickets by the end of today, though, if we're going. It's tomorrow. We need to hop in this ASAP. He says, yeah, let's go. I'd have to see how the tickets work. He says, because House of Blues is just all main floor. And like most, you can just go anywhere for real. But I never been to this one. She said, what's the most? He says, what do you mean? What tickets cost the most? She sends a screenshot. He says, oh, I'm down for both. I'd say let's book more shit like Babyface Ray and upcoming artists because you don't know which one's about to die or go to jail. And yeah, 200 is a lot in short notice. I'm down for either, though. She says, for real, I really want to go to Babyface Ray. He says, I know. Let's book that for sure. She sends a screenshot of shoes. And Dom says, is that your size? She says, 6 and 7 is. I will trade you a pair of my shoes if you buy them. He says, see if he will trade for weed. Kenzie says, can I smoke the blunt you left in my room? At 6:35 p.m. He said no to the weed. He said sell the tree and give me the money. Like the F. Dom says, wanna rob him? And yeah, smoke it. She says, no, I will feel bad. You hit him up for the same shoes and rob him. Dom says, LOL, I don't have him on Snap. He says the next morning at 7:18 a.m. What are you doing? He says, you still up? Might crash here. She sends a picture of somebody walking. He says, Nolan? And then he says, good morning, baby. I love you. She says, LMAO. No, look at the shirt. And I love you. He says, I seen. My mom getting that promo. Do you have any plans today? Kenzie says, yes, with Kendra, the crystal store. He says, do you want to plan something we can do? She says, how much do I get from the 5G? Dom says, $12. She says, I'm going to go to a party with Grace tonight. You can come if you want, but it's just going to be me and Grace. He says, whose party is it? She says, I don't even know. Grace knows it's a college party. He says, of course I'm going to come with you to a party. She says, I mean, I'm not going to cheat on you if you let me go. Whoa, that is weird. It's usually you guys know it's usually her being like, "Don't cheat on me," and now she's like, "I'm not gonna cheat on you." Guess we need more Melly in our life. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Cree. Who didn't hit the like and wants a spanking? That response was sus AF. I know. I know. That's where I was going with that. I got distracted. Oh, thank you, Vanjie. Thank you. You guys are the best. I just want to kiss you guys. Kissies. She's gonna give him another itchy wiener. Ew. Okay, let's she says, "I'm not gonna cheat on you if you let me go." And he says, "I trust you, not other people." Oh, yeah. Why does everybody say that? I feel like it's like that line, like, "Oh, it's not me, it's you." It's like that's one of those lines, you know what I mean? It's total bullshit. Hey, Ruth. Okay, she says, "Because I feel like it will be third wheel with me and Grace." Dude, she wants to go with Grace over Dom. She says, "Who the F is just gonna come touch me? When you cheated on me, the girls didn't come up to you, you went up to them." Oh. Dom says, "They came to me." I mean, I'll be uncomfortable, but I guess you can go. I'd rather go with you, though. I don't know why I just can't come too. She says, oh, wait. He says, I don't know why Joe just can't come too. Kenzie says, "Joe doesn't want to come. He's a bitch, and I don't know why you're so uncomfortable because I've never cheated on you, and you're the one that cheated on me multiple times." Dom says, "We don't need to talk about it. It was while we were dating. I said we broke up right before. And I wasn't even making it about cheating. You're making it about cheating, and you've been talking to me about cheating, so makes me feel like you're trying to cheat on me." I have to say, I have to agree. Like, I feel like why would she just be bringing it up out of the blue? Mallory says, "That's weird AF for her to say that. Can you imagine if it was the other way around? She would be flipping the hell out." Exactly my point. I think something's up. You guys know my theory is that she was into, I think, someone else during this time. I don't know why I feel like Snapchat has something to do with it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's all in my head. But I feel like she's just been acting so different? She be acting different. Okay, he says, yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes me feel like you're trying to cheat on me. He says, because we haven't even been hanging out. He said, "I wanted to take you to a nice dinner or the movies tonight." She says, "Used to go to parties without me all the effing time when it's group. I bring you. Why do you have to make everything a big deal and try to make me feel bad for you? Like, I'm allowed to go have fun alone with my girlfriend without you coming. I'm not going to effing do shit. Don't know why you're so weird." He says, "Kenzie, I said you can go. You bringing up me cheating 3 times a week." She says, "Maybe because you cheated on me. Doesn't really leave your head?" He said, all I was saying is it makes me feel like you're gonna do something and be like, 'Oh, well, you cheated twice.' Kenzie, I would never do that again. That's my biggest regret. I haven't done anything like that since we got back together." I said, "You don't have to forgive me either. I let you go to parties all the time by yourself to when you go with Megan and Nat, like once, but a college party. I mean, you wouldn't let me go by myself and I wouldn't even ask." Kenzie says, "I wouldn't let you go because you would probably cheat on me because when you get drunk, you get weird as F." She says, "I'm not going to drink and I'm not going to cheat because I never have. So you can stop now." He says, "What college is it at? So you can go to the parties alone, but I can't?" She says, "Bruh, and no, because you cheat." Dom says, "Kenzie, I swear to God, I'll never do that again." She says, "Like maybe if you were capable of not cheating, I would let you go to a party alone. Or maybe if you just never cheated on me in the first place, you would be able to go to the parties alone. But there's always something I found out later that I didn't like about the parties that you go to. Always leave out information when you go alone. So no one will ever be allowed to go to an effing party. Now that's conversation is overpriced." But she said over. Now that this conversation is over. I think that's what she meant. He says, I never cheated on you at a party though. So you just want to go to a party for what? Then what's there? He says, you can go, but we're going to have a talk because we're not going to have a one-sided relationship. It's going to be equal. This is going to be on my mind till we resolve it. Like if this is how our relationship is going to keep on going, I'm seriously going to reconsider it. I'm not going to commit for life if we can't set comfortable boundaries. I'm going to let you go. I said that in the beginning. I just feel like you can never understand. When you're going to be back, I got to run somewhere and I want to roll a blunt before we go to the abandoned place. And he emphasizes his message. She says, we need to come back here. About to come back. He says, bet I'm running down the street. I'll be real quick. I'll be right back. She says, we're going to go home and eat first. Then I'll be ready. He says, I bet. She says, I'm starving at 4:03 p.m. She says, what do I eat, babe? He says, I don't know. I was going to ask you. Should have gotten Chinese. She says, we are ready. Come over. She says, or do you want me to just pick you up? He says, if you're driving, just pick me up. She says, okay, bet. She says, here. She said, is Blair coming? He can come too. She says, here. He says, I don't think so. He says, I'm coming out though. She said, come. He said, I was being stupid earlier. How's the party though? He says at 10:42. So they obviously hung out. And then he says, I was being stupid earlier at 10:37 p.m. He said, how's the party though? She said, it's lit. Wow. She went without him. I'm really annoyed about that. Like, why does that bother me? I just feel bad for Dom. Like, she would never, never want to go with, like without him. She would freak, or he would never, she would freak out if he went without her. Wait, did I say that right? Yeah. Yes. She's finally playing hard to get. This is what we were trying to tell her for over a year ago. Yes, Mandy. But wait, First Liberty says this effing guy cheated at library, not a party. I think it's ridiculous that they keep bringing up the cheating. Like, that's the thing about it. If you're going to get over it and forgive someone, you better get over it and forgive someone. You know what I mean? She can't be holding it over his head. Like, that's also not cool at all. I don't like that. Um, okay. She says, it's lit. He says, yeah, Akron pretty wild. Kenzie says, it's dope. Dom says, let me pull up another time. I'll drive. She says, I'm down. She says, I'm drinking a little. I'm not drunk AF. He said, be safe. She said, it's cool. We're with her friends. I just won flip cup. LMAO. He said, LOL, that's what's up. She said, yeah, I just drank a 𝐷𝐿. He says, I don't even think Thomas throws party at college. She says, this party is lit AF. He says, the Akron ones used to be lit though. Is it at a frat house? She says, yes. Want to FaceTime and see real quick? I just won't be able to hear. He says, send me snap. He said, is it sending? She said, well, we left the party. We're walking around trying to find another. Dom says, oh, okay. Why did you leave? Did you find another? He says, at midnight, he says, babe. She said, we're at this crazy ass party. He said, I seen your story. That shit lit. Then the next morning at 10:08, he said, what's up with you, babe? She said, just work. Or just woke up. He says, yeah, me too, pretty much. She said, I have an interview at 11. He says, tropical smoothie. He says, you want to make plans today or should I just do my thing? She says, yes. And I don't know. What do you want to do? He says, I don't know. I wanted to go to a dinner or movies yesterday. We could go to Aurora. I want to get a belt. Cedar Point. She says, I don't know. What should I wear to my interview? I don't know if I'm trying to go to Cedar Point. He says, just dress how you usually do. She says, I don't really have a lot of energy today. He says, oh, okay. She says, we can still do something. I just don't have a lot of energy. Should I wear jean shorts or biker shorts? He says, biker shorts. She said, or should I wear the shorts that I used to wear at Pulp? He says, probably not the ones you got fired for. He says, help me find a new shampoo. She says, we can go to Ulta. I also need a better new shampoo. He says, bet. He says, yeah, I like mine. I might as well try something new. She says, I know. He says, and I know you'll know the stuff better than me. Kenzie says, you honestly should like your hair. It's always nice, but I feel like something can do your hair better because your hair is always really frizzy. There's a whole curly section in Ulta. She says, we could go try going to Aveda, but that shit's expensive. He says, we can try both. He says, Ulta first. She says, should I wear biker shorts and the white Zara shirt? I really don't know what shirt would work. He says, yeah, I need to take you back to Zara. She says, I wish. She says, I want that. I really don't know what to wear. That was a typo, I think. He says, yeah, you need more Zara shirts. He says, wear the biker shorts with the Zara shirt. She says, I know because the shirt you got me is the only shirt I ever went anyways. That was a typo. He says, you're going to get hired. He says, Lorain County Fairs. She says, I'm down. He says, I wonder if it actually closes at 5 or if I was looking at the wrong thing. She says, you're probably looking at the wrong thing. He says, help me find the right one. She says, bruh, I'm going to a job interview. She says, you look. He says, okay, sorry, I didn't know it was a bad thing to ask you for help. They fixed it. It's open till 11 p.m. She says, I just left my interview. I think it went well. The only thing they got me a little bit concerned is the fact that there's other people applying. He has 2 interviews after me, I think. Dom says, they probably need workers. They probably lost all their college summer workers. She says, I don't know. He said they're pretty well staffed, but he's looking to add a few more. Dom says, apply at Robex or something. She says, I'll apply there too. Dom says, bet, because I need to get smoothies. He says, when do you want to go to the fair? She says, I forgot I told my friend I would go to her birthday party at 5. We have to go there for a little bit, then we can go to the fair. We can go to the fair now, leave, then go back if you want. She said, I need to eat some breakfast too. He said, I'm on the way to a cell. We can go to the fair after I'm back. I need breakfast too. Do you actually want to make some? She says, come over. My mom is making me 2 eggs. She says, I'm down to make pancakes with you though. You can help me pick out an outfit. And then she sends a voice message. He sends a voice message. She's treating him like shit and she keeps wanting to go to parties by herself. Hey, Chuck's granddaughter. Yeah. Biker shorts to an interview. Right, Jessica? She wanted to wear the ones that she got fired from. It's funny that Dom said that. Yeah, it's rainy where I am too. I like rainy days. Okay, Dom says, do you have bacon? Kenzie says, when will you be here? Dom says, call me. She says, I don't think we have bacon. She says, how long? He says, I'm on, I don't know what he said there. Traffic though. She says, how long till you're ready for the fair, Dom? And he says, 30 minutes. He says, should I just go wait in the car at 8:26 p.m.? So when he says 30 minutes, that was at lunchtime, well, midday, 12:31 p.m. Then he says at 8:26, should I just go wait in the car? That was at 8:13 p.m. Okay, and then it jumps to the next day at 3:46 p.m. He says, what are you doing now? He says, I'm gonna be back in Strongsville in 15. She says, why didn't you come? He says, you didn't answer. It was definitely locked. He says, good morning, babe. I love you. And that was at 9:58 p.m. He says, let me know when you're up. We can go to lunch. She said, I'm up, babe. He says, do you want to go out to eat today? She said, I might go to the beach with Grace. He says, what are you doing right now? She said, I'm at breakfast with my mom. He says, we need to talk for real, for real. You also didn't even say love you back. Kenzie says, oh, I love you, babe. She says, about what? He says, us. She says, what does that even mean? He says, I just want to talk about us for a sec and see how we should move forward from here. She said, I guess. He says, when do you want to talk? She says, I don't know, question mark. He said, do you not want to talk? She said, we can. I don't know when. He said, come talk after breakfast. She said, I'm going to the beach after breakfast. He says, you don't have any time in between? It won't take long. Like, you really don't want to talk to me? Let me know, because I got places to run. I'm waiting on you. She says, I might go to the beach now. I might not go to the beach because it's going to rain. So you can come talk. He says, when? She says, I'm at breakfast. I will be home soon. He says, okay, let me know. He says, Chris wants me to try his smoked pork at 2:09 p.m. She said, LMAO, what the F is that? He says, I don't even know. He want me to pull up to Morgan's though, so I don't think I'm going to. She said, WTF? She said, oh, I thought you meant your brother, Chris. He said, oh, nah. LMAO, if Toph was trying to give me shit, I'd never eat it. She says, we need to effing get vaccine or negative COVID test to go to Trippy Red. He says, damn, everyone really doing that? We're going to have to get COVID tests then. She said, no. She said, I'm just going to get someone's negative COVID test and have us edit the picture. Grace also said they get test at BW. He said, okay, let's do that then. She said, Kenzie says, she said it's an at-home test. I might just take the test. He says, oh, the at-home one probably will be fine. He says, get me one. He says, when you're going to be free, I want to chill because I might go to the Jake Paul fight with Sean and Angelo. She says, where is the Jake Paul fight? She says, I'm at lunch with Grace. He says, I don't even know. I think Cavs Arena. She said, that's dope AF. It's going to be fun AF. He says, I'm not even sure if I can go because they got to make sure there's enough spots in the section. He says, when are you going to be back from lunch? She says, she sends a picture of lunch. She says, I'm bringing you back these back. He says, bet. I think they're breadsticks. He says, those look like lime chicken tenders, but I feel like they're not. Oh, she said, they're gas. So I guess it was calamari, not breadsticks. He said, oh, bet. She says, I'm going to go to the Beechwood Mall with Grace. He said, when? He said, could I get that calamari? She says, we're about to go to Beechwood Mall. Dom says, what? Is it cool if I go to the club with them after the fight? He says, why haven't you responded at 5:05 p.m.? She says, LMAO, you're not going to the club. I'm at the mall. He says, why not? We're going to be in the section with like 18 people, all dudes. And yeah, you still didn't text back for an hour though. She says, I'm at Nordstrom. If I see a Skims dress, can I buy it? He says, yeah, and let me know where the section is. She says, I will. He says, babe, let me go to the club, LOL. She says, no. He says, what's with all the emojis? She said, I was walking with my phone in my pants. You're not going. He says, is there any way I could go? She said, no. He said, okay, that's fine. He said, when are you going to be back from Beechwood? I think I got to leave for Jake Paul at like 7. What the hell? She's seriously not letting him go. And she was just like, I'm at the at the frat party, right? And she was like, I'm having so much fun. And she's like, but you can't go. This literally is pissing me off. I don't know why, you guys. It's pissing me off. No, I know, Mallory. We're outraged. I wonder what spell she did to make him want. Oh, Tia Marie, let me know. Uh, him asking for permission to go out when she goes to college. I know. Yeah, Mandy, that's what I'm saying. Dude, she sucked the life out of this poor baby. I feel so bad for Dom right now. I don't know. He says, I think I gotta leave for Jake Pot like 7-ish. She says, on the way home soon, and it's 5:37 p.m. He says, why you put this? She said it was an accident. Why is the text yellow or green? He says, I don't know, must be your connection. He says, we both need iPhone 12s. He says, damn, they shit was filled in the Jake Paul fight because some Mike dude booked it wrong. She sends a picture of, I think she's at the mall. He says, answer me at 6:13. He says, I'll just go to the fight and Uber back. He says, you're not going to be mad, right? And if you actually want to go to Barely Together, I'm down. Barley Together, I'm down. Because he says, I'm down. Can Grace come too? Why does she always want to bring her friends too? Like she's doesn't want to hang out with Dom. She says, how are you going to get me into Barley? He said, I thought Grace would get you in. I have to sneeze. He said, they said I need an ID, but they're going to try and throw me in the middle of the group like I'm the president. LOL. He says, that's if I go though. She says, can you get me in with her fake ID? He said, who's fake? She said, Grace's. Dom says, do you think that would work? Let me see. She says, what time will y'all be at Barley? She says, we're not going to the fight, probably. Dom says, I'm not sure. You want me to let you know? He says, can we both turn on red receipts again? Wow. Now he's asking to have red receipts on. He says, I don't have to go either if you don't want me to. Also, what Grace uses for fake ID? I'd been meaning to order one. We can both get him. Kenzie says she doesn't have a fake ID if she has a fake real ID too. Her friend that looks like her sold her the ID. Dom says, oh, okay. She says, I didn't get the job at Tropical Smoothie though. Now I need a job. He says, that's okay. It just wasn't meant to be. He says, do nails. You def could make bank. You already got clout because you always had the best nails. Kenzie says, we're both not going to be able to get in. Me and Grace need space in the section. She says, because Jake Paul will be there tonight. Dom says, the section is full, babe. There's nothing I can do. I almost didn't get in. She said, it's only private section. Dom says, he just turned it off. Kenzie says, I honestly don't really care. I'm not even. Wow. I'm not even. Oh, thank you, Shug. Thanks, Babelet, for the super sticker. Appreciate you. I hate how she's playing the same game. I know. Thank you, Shug. After listening to these, if my teen son's girlfriend shows any kind of controlling tendency, my radar is full force. I know. I swear she did something to turn the tables. So weird. Maybe Kenzie is gay. She likes her friends more. Ugh. Let me get my drink. Okay. She says, honestly, I really don't care. I'm not even trying to go with you anymore. She says, whoever you're with. Oh, wait, that was that. Oh, yeah. She says, I'm not even trying to go with you anymore. She says, whoever you're with is so effing disrespectful. They can't even turn the effing music on when you're on the phone. Go get these. Oh my gosh. She said, go get these B words at the club tonight. Have fun. What about when you were flirting with the guys, the college guys, Kenzie? What about you when you were doing that? Oh my God, this is pissing me off. He says, that's Sean. He was being fried. Kenzie says, I really don't give an F. He says, I'm not going to get B words. I don't care about B words. Kenzie says, like, none of those idiots even asked you if I was coming. Like, I'm really fed up with this. He says, yeah, they barely got me in. Kenzie says, no, none of them my family. Fake ass N words. Dom says, who? Sean and them? I wouldn't expect them to be. Kenzie says, if they're your family, they're my family. Dom says, bruh, I don't even have to go to the club. She says, if you're going to put them before me, we're breaking up. You know what? The more I'm reading tonight, I'm like, I'm glad she's locked up. Oh no. Not the Kenzie supporters are gonna come for me. Dude, what the hell? Hey, Jakey. Jakey coming in hot. She has foot fits if she can't be with him. She wants to hang out with him when she's with his friends. I know. We need to do some research. Oh, yeah, Tia. Malik says I'm done. Rochelle, is she dating women in prison? Or am I tripping? Wait, what, Marvin? She put her friends first. No, she did. Yes, Shug. Appreciate you, babelet. Maybe Dom and Kenzie, you know what? Let's continue. She says, if you're going to put them before me, we're breaking up. He says, what? How would I be putting them before you? She says, the fact that you can't even get me and Grace in the section is disgusting. He said, I said I'd ask, babe. Kenzie says, the fact that you're going on a party bus and you didn't even invite me. Dom said, who said I couldn't? She says, you can do more than just ask. Dom says, what do you mean? That's all I can do. He says, I don't even know if I can get in the club. Why are you making this so hard? I'm only trying to make you happy. I said I wasn't going to go to the club. I was about to not even go to the fight. Why would you really break up with me over that? If it was my section, you'd be here. If I had a say in it earlier, you'd obviously be there. She says, I'm not cool with any of your brother's friends. Like, they better never talk about me or talk to me. She says, I'm so done with not being invited to your family's shit. He says, this isn't even family shit, and I didn't even go on vacation. She said, it is, though. If you call those people your family, then it's a family thing. I'm fed up with all of y'all. He says, no, it's literally Sean's friends that me and Angelo barely know. I'm not trying to make you fed up at all. I was just trying to watch Paul with Angelo and Sean. She says, okay. He said, we'll get fakes and go to the clubs together. She said, so who is taking up all the room and the 20 person section? Oh, sorry, guys. There's a power dynamic change. Okay. She says, so who's taking up all the room in the 20% section? She said, none are girls. Don't know if I believe that. Even if it's random girls. Dom says, fight section or club section? She said, both. She says, like, WTF, I'm not going to the club. You're not. If I'm not going to the club, you're not. Dom says, Sean said no girls. Scott had to get general admission to bring his girl. Let me see if I can get you in. She says, why would I believe that idiot? Question mark, question mark. He says, I don't know if I can even get in the club anyway. She says, we need a wristband. He says, what do you mean? She says, bruh, I have to sneeze. He says, we're getting in the club regardless. He says, how? She said, we need wristbands to get in. Grace knows the bouncer. She said, it's $50 to get in the normal line. Dom said, I'm not sure. Sean said he never paid to get in. She said, what do you mean? The bouncer makes the price. Are there extra wristbands? Because if they're not, you need to give me $50 to get me in. We just called them. Wow. She's like, give me $50. I'm so sick of her. Looks aren't everything, but Dom was too good looking for, yeah. Kenzie gets up early in prison to do her hair and makeup. Are you allowed to have makeup in prison? I thought you had to use colored pencils, like for eyeliner and stuff. Is that not true anymore? Now you can get makeup? She's so aggressive. Yeah, I know. He says, I didn't hear anything about a wristband. He says, I'll see what's up. She said, how does she know that? She says, your section is getting wristbands. Dom says, we could probably get you one, but don't keep being mean to me if I'm gonna get you in. Kenzie says, we need two, get two. We check your ID no matter what. I also need Tree. Dom says, I don't know if we can get Grayson. Come pick me up right now then. I won't go if you're going to be uncomfortable, he says at 7:06 p.m. I said I'd send you a snap though. On my mama and my dad, I ain't doing shit, swear to God. Just trying to watch the fight. Okay, so he's at the fight and she's blowing him up, I think calling him. He says, on my mama and dad, I ain't doing that shit, swear to God. Just trying to watch the fight. She says, nah, you're a liar. He says, I should have verified who was all coming. He says, you're breaking up with me over it? She says, are you slow? LMAO, LMAO, LMAO in caps. He says, do you want to pick me up then? Like, I don't want this to be a big deal. Like, WTF. She said, you did verify and you lied. He said, nah, Sean said no girls. That's probably where they effed up who was all coming. It was one girl and the dude's girlfriend. Do you want me to leave? She says, I don't give an F. Y'all said no girls. Why the F am I not there? She says, okay, I'm coming. He says, are you breaking up with me over this? She says, where are you at? He said, Cleveland. She said, okay. She said, send Addie. Dom says, I really can't go to the fight because of this. She said, yep, you lied. He said, I didn't lie. I just didn't know. She said, but you did know. She said, you're 20. Dom says, what do you mean I'm 20? She said, you're old enough to know that bitches are going to be there. He said, bruh, not bitches, only 30-year-old girlfriend. Why can't you believe me? I'm not trying to do anything. Kenzie says, like, what friends go to the club with girlfriends? Clearly, y'all got other plans. He says, I'm not even trying to go to the club. She says, if you're not willing to get me in the club with you, then we know you got other plans. Dom said, I said I'd get you in. Why are you being like this? He says, you've been mean about this whole thing. That's why that's not even in my control at all. He says at 7:13 p.m. She says, so you can get us in, get us both wristbands. He says, I'll talk to Sean if I can get you in. I don't know if Grace can get in with the wristband too. She said, Grace is coming with me. I can't get in without her. Dom said, he said it's probably possible for another wristband. She said, we need two. Dom says, just have her let you borrow it. She said, OMG, N-word in caps. That's not happening. Dom said, why? She says, why? He says, what do you mean? Why is that not happening? Kenzie says, if both of us are not going, you're not going to the club. You're already being weird AF. He says, I don't care about the club. She says, like, we'll break up tonight if you keep being all sus and lying. He says, I'm going to go to the fight. I'm not being sus or lying. She says, you are, though. He says, I'll send you a snap of what I'm doing every 15 minutes if you want. She said, no. He said, I'll send you snaps. She said, the F? You won't. He said, Angelo said he thinks it's only one girl, maybe two, but they the dude's girlfriends, and he don't think they're going to the club. Kenzie says, a man can still find time to cheat in 15 minutes. Dom treated her badly when they first started dating, but she's way worse than, dude, this is utterly disgusting. She lives to rage. She's rage addicted. She needs so much mental help that I don't know how she's surviving in prison. Like, she is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is so abusive and manipulative and evil. She's disgusting. He says, okay, so I can go to the fight and not the club, right? Listen, you're tripping. I'm trying to chill with my dudes. I'm going to send you snaps and I'm going to just go to the fight. We both have to trust each other. She said, no, I'll never trust you for real. Every time I trust you, you cheat or do some weird shit. I don't give an F what you're doing for reals. Dom says, you can trust me to go to the fight. I won't let you down. Swear to God. She says, I'm still mad at the fact that I wasn't invited with you. But okay, go on party bud and see a celebrity fight. Dom says, honestly, at this point, I'm not doing anything to mess up anything. You should really trust me. She says, LMAO, I'm cool. She says, I need weed, like right now. So he says, could you maybe drive to Kristen's? I'll tell Kyle to give you free tree. My house is locked. I could maybe have my mom give you a key. You let me know what you want to do. Kenzie says, can she just leave it outside? I don't want to have to drive to Kristen's. Dom says, just grab it from her. Kenzie says, the key? Can your mom just leave it outside? Dom says, I'll ask. She says, how are you going to get home from the club? Dom says, Uber, or you can drive me. She says, Uber. He says, my phone is at 17, so I can't text too much. She said, you can. Why would I come get you when you plan a whole effing event without me? She said, did your mom do it? He said, she didn't text back yet. She'll do it though. She says, okay, I need tree like right now though. Also send location or I'm stopping mine. He says, I got you. She says, also current. He says, what do you mean? I'm gonna let my phone charge for a sec. She said, send it now. He sends an attachment of his location, I think. He says, you can trust me, babe. Swear to God, at 7:48 p.m. She says, no, I can't. He said, well, that's okay. Y'all trust me. I have no reason to do anything. Now I'm gonna let my phone get some battery before we dip. She says, I don't care. He says, you'll see. She says, tree. He said, I texted her again. You should just go over there and get it. Kenzie sends 10 question marks. Bruh, is the key out? Dom says, it's at my mom's. Go over there and get it. Kenzie says, bruh, have her set out the key. Why is this hard? Why is everything so hard for you? In caps. Dom says, she's not answering. I even hit up Scotty right now. Kenzie says, tell your mother to set out the key. Dom says, I did. Okay, she's setting it out. Go there in 5. She says, okay, bet. Where's she putting it? And FaceTime me and FaceTime you when I'm there. Dom says, you'll just see the bag. Just grab the bud out. I told her back porch. Kenzie says, I don't know what bud. He says, there will be a bag that isn't full. Just take some out of it. He says, my eyes hurt. I'll text you in a little. She said, is it there? Dom said, she said 2 minutes when I got off the phone. So probably. Kenzie said, why is there a green light in your basement? Dom says, I don't know. That shit is dope though. She said, I'm so jealous. Your mom is so tan. Dom says, Angela got tan AF too. Kenzie says, like your mom literally is bronze. So jealous. Dom says, yeah, she get crazy tan. I'm jealous too. Fight is we could get you in Barley, I think. No ID. She sends a screenshot of something. He says, ew, at 10:03 p.m. He said, that's funny. He noticed you though. He says, if you don't want to come, I'm going to come back to your house. You not want to come? She says, I don't have an ID. At 10:16 p.m. He says, you don't need one. We'll get you in. She says, are you sure? How? He says, we'll try. He says, they know the people. Kenzie says, if I can't get in 100%, I don't want to, and I'm already in bed. I wish you would have told me. I'm going like a while ago. He said, let me see. He said, I'm probably just going to come back. Would I be able to get in? She says, probably. He said, bet. She said, don't park behind me. I have school tomorrow. He said, should I park behind your mom? She said, yes. He said, bet. He said, the party bus is going to drop me off at Barley. He said, at 1:42 a.m. She said, the F? You're going? He said, no, I'm waiting on party bus. She said, send video. Question mark, question mark. He said, sent on Snap. Finally on the bus. I kind of got Jude. Kenzie says, 1, there were girls. 2, there was room for me and Grace. I see someone's story. She says at 8:53 a.m. You, LOL, pretty drunk. Who knows what you did last night? Oh, you look pretty drunk. Who knows what you did last night? Dom says, what do you mean? There weren't girls. Kenzie said, I seen a video of you and 2 girls were in the background. 4 question marks. He said, where? She said, and the party bus didn't wait at the club, so where the F did you wait? He said, the party bus was supposed to get me, but it's slow as shit, so I was waiting for like 40 minutes. And what video brought his girl? And Mike brought his girl. That's all I know. He says, how is school, babe? Do you know someone named Julia? Are we doing anything today? He says, I gotta run some places, so let me know. He says, are you mad at me? He says, I'm about to just pull up. Wow. That's at 7:27 p.m. He says, talk to me later. I guess I swear I didn't go to the club though. He says, wow, she didn't text him back. Then at 6:29 on the 31st, he says, do you not want to talk? I didn't step foot in the club. What is going on? Are you just going to ignore me for days? Are we breaking up over this or something? We have Trippy Red tomorrow, babe. What's going on? Are we going? He says, I don't care about going to the club. And I don't care about other girls. And I didn't even drink there. I had one beer. I literally waited outside for 40 minutes for the party bus. Then they just left without me because the club was ass. Like, let's just talk about it. Not talking only is going to make it worse. That was at 7:27 a.m. And then at 1:56 p.m., he said, what's going on? She says, you're coming to Trippy? He says, why haven't you been talking to me? And what can I do to make it better? She says, nothing. You lied. He says, bruh, I didn't want to deal with none of that shit. I shouldn't even have went to the fight. Kenzie says, I don't know why you were wasted with girls and shit. I don't know why I wasn't invited. Dom says, I didn't even drink. I had one beer before Jake Paul and one after we were there for a bit, but I didn't even get a buzz. Only girls there had boyfriends, and I was barely invited. And I just wanted to do something because I wasn't doing shit all day. She says, are you sure? Because you look pretty drunk in the video that I seen. He says, I swear to God, I wasn't drunk. He says, I have no reason to do anything, babe. Like, for real, let me talk to you like I'm ready to be a whole different person. Not even because of this, just like I'm done with that childish shit, period. I swear to God, I have no reason to be out here doing anything for real. I don't care. And none of that has meaning. Like, I don't really have many people in my life. You think I'd do anything to them? Hell no. I swore that to God that I'd be better because if he's real or not, I keep my word. I ain't breaking it. Yo, so Trippy Red tomorrow, are we tailgating? Should I have Sean pull up? He says he'd bring Haley and her friends probably. And that was at 4:25. And then it goes to the next, that was on 8:31 at 4:26 p.m. And then it jumps to the next day at 10:47 p.m. He says, I'm about to come over. I'll show you, babe. She said, bring some carts to me. He said, I'm already at your house. What do you mean? You have my most full car. All I have is the pod. She says, nah, to sell. He says, oh, okay. LOL, little trap babe. Kenzie says, Julia's sad AF and needs a cart. Dom says, oh, okay. Should I run back to my house? When does she need? I'm breaking up the bud right now, though. She sends TikToks. Now we're in September. He says, WTF, meat industry is so effed. Kenzie says, I'm done eating that shit. F pork and bacon. She says, hell no. Dom says, for real. He said, I hope that steak isn't effed. We need that. Kenzie says, for real. She says, we are in VIP right now. He says, I'm hurt, but okay, at 7:48 p.m. He says, when you gonna be out? Let me know, because if I should wait here. Could I pay for VIP? She said, I don't know. How are you hurt? You are in two sections without me. Hang with Vince. He says, nah, I didn't go. He says, I thought you would go with me, but she says, I feel bad. Where are you? What do you mean? He says, when are you coming out at 7:48 p.m.? She said, soon. I don't know what is happening. Dom says, let me try and be soon because I don't know if I'm just trying to wait. Let me know if it's soon. I'm not just trying to wait here. They're leaving and I'm sticking with Vince and them. She said, hang with Vince? Dom says, how long are you going to be in there? He says, let me know. Text me, please. She says, I will, I promise. She says, babe. He says, I don't want to just chill here with Vince. I'd rather be with you. She says, I know. Just wait. He says, send me snaps and stuff. Come back soon. I don't even got a lighter. She says, we're coming back at 8:04 p.m. He says, why? What's going on? She says, we just met him. Dom says, was it dope? He says, where you want me to meet you? She says, we're going to the mosh pit. He says, where? I'm on lawn. Where? I'm on lawn. My shit won't send. I'm by bathroom. Vince got a piss. My shit won't send. I was trying to have fun with you. Babe, we're in the front park. I don't know where are you though. Why are you doing this? At midnight. He says, what you want me to do? Distract one of the dudes? I'll hop it. He says, we've been alone for an hour. Come on, me and Vince didn't come to chill with each other. He said that alcohol in your trunk got to be gross AF now. She says, OMG, yikes. He says, right? It's whatever though. It was only like a little over a case. She said, we should just put it in the fridge. Dom said, I think this is the last time I get out my shampoo. You need to help me get some good shit. He says, yeah, I know. Beer, you can't let it get warm. I don't know about seltzer. He says, yeah, out of shampoo. I don't know if I had enough. She said, we at garbage, a garage, what? We're we at garbage sales. We can go shopping today if you want. Did she mean garage sales? He says, yeah, let's get it because I probably need to wash my hair again tomorrow. I got soaked through, but I still think it's gonna be greasy. I'm about to just get a haircut, go back to the old Dom. You find any good shit at the garage sales? She said, yes. He said, send pics. He said, yo, if you happen to see any good furniture, let me know. But you ain't got to try. Just see if you happen to see something nice, you know? She said, I'm on the way home. Where do you want to go shopping? He says, what place will have good shampoo for my hair? She said, Ulta. It's a makeup store. He says, bet. Let me check what malls have Ulta. She said, bruh, the next day on 9/2. I feel like, let me check in with you guys. Um, Garbage sales. Yeah, that's what it, but they mean garage sales, right? Um, I'm reading the comments. Are they okay? Who? Hmm. Um, I think she's like just using him. I think she's just using him at this point. I can see why she probably now I'm confused because I'm like, if she treated him this bad, why would she want to unalive him? But then I'm like, she totally did it intentionally. Like, she's sick. She's sick. Yeah, YouTube flags on their own. Yeah, I can't. I don't know what anybody's typing, but oh, Drakey sent a super chat 4.99. That was from last night. Yeah, that part. Um, yeah, I don't know. YouTube sometimes flags. I think she has a side piece. Yeah, I think so too, Ash. Chill out. It's fine. I think she's over him, says Ash. Yeah. She said, Dom says, oh, that's the store on Royalton. Kenzie says, none. She says, yes. He said, yes. You just want to go there and then we can go wherever. She said, that's a typo. He said, what? She said, I'm down. Just give me a second. He says, okay, bet. He says, send me all pics. He sends, he sends the pictures that he has. There's a lot of pictures and videos when they went to see Trippy Red. She says, no, Dom, of me and Grace and Nat, like our pics. Dom says, I have no pics of you and Grace and Nat. I have pics of you, Nat, and Freshie, though. He said, do you want me to come over? She said, not yet. He said, okay, let me know. She said, come over at 3:28 p.m. She says, Dom, or you want me to scoop? He says, whatever you want to do, babe. He says, do you want to smoke that backwood after? I think it's in your room. Let me know. I'm ready to dip. She says, nah, I just hit my bong. He says, I'm about to just pull up at your house. She says, I was just going to come get you, but let me know when you're here and I'll come out. She says, are you driving? He says, yeah, I'll drive. He says, here. She says, okay. He says, I'm parked in the shade for now because the car was really hot. He says, I'm not texting you. Oh, okay. So That was on 9/2 at 3:34 PM, and then it jumps to 9/3. He says, "I'm not texting you because I wanna give you space, but I just wanna let you know that I've been thinking of you since I left." Wow. She flies into a rage whenever he dares steps out of her circle. I think she was using it, but she didn't want him. She didn't want anybody else to have him. I have texts with her friends. It's different when you're getting dumped or you're getting cheated on too. That's what I think precipitated the crash. I just don't get if she was so obsessed with him, why treat him like this? Seems like the tables have turned. But then, like, if you don't give, a crap about him and you're gonna treat him like crap, then why kill him? Like, was that necessary? Like, really, you really didn't want him to be with someone that bad, but you were clearly, I think she was cheating at this point. That's just my hump. Like, she's like going to parties without him. She treats him like shit. She's going out with her friends and she's like, I'll be there later. Like she's being really sus. And I just think it's so sad. I think it's really sad what's going on right now. He's like telling her, like, I'm thinking about you. She says, we can talk tonight if you want. He says, oh my God, thank you, babe. I love you. He says, when do you want to talk? And did you get what I got? Wait, did you get when do you wanna talk and did you what I got? She says, "We can talk right now, but bring fillets." He said, "Okay." He says, "Will you come with me to get them? It's okay if not." She says, "No." He says, "Just come here." She says, "After you get them." He says, "Okay, bet. Sean here right now. We're gonna kick it for a sec longer, then I'll come." She said, dot, dot, dot. "'Kay." She says, "Or don't come now, I guess." He said, "I'll be 1 sec, babe. He just got here when you hit me up. People are leaving. Do you want to get a better spot?" Oh wait, that was on 9/3 at 6:11. Then it jumps to the next day at 10:46 a.m. He says, "People are leaving. Do you want to get a better spot? Do you want to plan another hard conversation?" She said, "About what?" He said, "No, nothing big, just kind of same stuff." She said, "Like?" Dom says, "I don't want to get it misunderstood through text, so I'm not going to text about it really, but I just don't always want to look at the past. Don't worry about it today. It doesn't matter right now." He says, "What are you doing, babe?" at 1:33. She says, "On the way home, babe." He says, "Are you going to lunch at 3?" She says, 4. She says, "Now." He says, "Okay, do you still wanna chill later?" She said, "Yes?" Question mark, question mark. He says, "Bet, didn't know how long that take you or how far you had to go." He said, "Should I put conditioner in my hair every shower?" She said, "Yeah." "Do you need to brush your hair with conditioner every shower?" He said, "Bet, got you." He says, "Where you gotta go for dinner?" She said, "We're going to Rosewood." She says, "We're running his pocket." She said, Dom says, "Oh, what does that mean?" "We're running his pocket?" "Whose pocket?" Dom says, "Oh, is it okay? Is it oh, okay. Is it with the same dude from Chardon?" She says, "No." "What dude from Chardon?" Sorry, I yawn. She said, Dom says, "Okay, is it with the same dude from Chardon?" Kenzie says, "No." Dom says, "Okay, who is the dude? Who is the dude really?" Kenzie says, "This man's name is Rick. I don't know how old he is. He's old AF." Dom says, "At least you don't have to drive far." She said, "For real." Dom says, "New York for my birthday? Imma get an iced out Rolex." Kenzie says, "I'm down." Dom says, "I bet. I don't know when to go. They got hella floods." Kenzie says, "What should I bring you back from Rosewood? LOL." He says, "Bring me a lobster bisque and bread." She said, "I'm not gonna be able to bring you a whole leftover of that. I'm gonna bring you what I don't eat. So pick an appetizer that you know I'm not going to finish." She says, "Or I can just get you something when I'm on the way home." He says, "Oh, okay, shit, get a calamari then. I almost want to see what these dudes look like, but then again, I don't." Kenzie says, "He looks normal AF." Dom says, "Luis invited us to his birthday party. I forgot. We can pull up if you want. If not, it's chill. I don't really care to go. She said, who? And she sends pictures of herself. She said, should I buy? Dom, answer. Dom, what the F? What the F? Dot, dot, dot. He says, yes. She said, dry AF at 6 p.m. She said, it's $70. He said, Luis's. She says, I don't have any money. Dom says, are they buying it for you? Kenzie says, no, I would. Dom says, oh, did they buy anything for you? I'll get it for you, babe. You look really cute in it. She said, one shirt. He says, didn't have my phone in my pocket. That's my bad. I'll turn ringer on. She said, should I buy it right now? Or do you want to get me it? He said, if you really like it, yeah. She said, I really like it, but I'm broke. I only have 180. He says, I'll get you or pay you back. She says, you would? He says, yes, of course. She says, I'm going to buy it. She says, we can cuddle. Can I come to Luis's? He says, yeah, let me hit him up. Kenzie says, I'm about to be on the way home soon. He said, bet. Kyle and Bradbury on DJ set over there. Let's go. She sends a picture of the sweater. She says, never mind. He says, you sure? She said, I didn't buy it. It's on hold for 3 days. You can come pick it up if you want. He says, yeah, for that price, I could get you something better, I feel like. Another tracksuit or something. Kenzie says, it was really comfy and I loved it. I really wanted it, but with that price, I cannot do that to myself. I would cry. He says, okay, babe, maybe I'll get it for you. That was at 6:12. And then at 9:47, she says, I might dip and go home. He says, I'm grabbing cough drops from over here and my mom has corn. Want me to bring you a piece? Kenzie says, what's Luis's mom's name? Dom says, I don't know. No corn? She said, no. He says, okay, I'll be on the way in a sec. He sends maps. He's sending location. Okay, so then it goes, so then it goes into the next morning on the 5th at 11:45 a.m. He's sending a bunch of locations, a bunch of maps. Dom says, call her. You def passed it. Just have her send Addie and tell her to come outside. She says, I found it. He says, are you there? Call me back if you need me. He says, can we make tea when you're back? She said, yeah, I might need to go to get more herbs. He said, okay, let me know. I'll get some. Dom is being so nice. Like, he's like, oh, I'll buy you that sweater. He's bending over backwards for her. I know, I don't get it. And she's being so disgusting to him. Was that escort? Was she escorting? Was that what that was? I was thinking that, but I didn't want you guys to be like, Melly, you're crazy. That was escorting. She was out with older men, her and her friend. He was like, oh, did you get them to buy you stuff? What the helly? What the helly? Yup. Oh, hell no. So she's over there doing all this stuff and he can't even go out with his friends? Dude. What? Hey, 269. Standing real fine. Yeah, pure evil. Yes. Is that a song? I don't know. I just made that up. She said, Yvonne says she's always nasty to him. Okay, so she's definitely lost interest if at this point she was selling her kitty on them Snapchats. Because remember the court paperwork. We read it in a live. Go back to the live where we cover like the police report from her friend. Grace, was it Grace? I think it was. I still have those text messages, by the way. We can go through them. We should go through those. We're never going to be done here. Because that's like 20,000 other more pages probably. But she was seeing some old man. But remember in the police report, I'm getting distracted. In the police report that Grace did or whatever, the investigative report, was it that one? Where they had proof that she was doing inappropriate things on them Snapchats, selling inappropriate things. She's a sugar baby. Unfortunately, it was a bench trial. I don't know. I don't think they heard. They're hearing it now. I'm sure they know. They know who she is. They know what she's capable of. I don't want to hear Steve and Natalie pretending like they don't know what their daughter is like. Period. Then she says, I have no money. Dude, she's using Dom and I'm pissed about it. He says, okay, let me know. I'll get some. She says, I'm home. Be ready at 4:36 p.m. He says, be ready for what? She says, come over whenever. Come. He says, on the way. Give me 1 second. She says, come now. Will you give me, will you get me Sheets chocolate before you come over? He says, babe, you're already out. She said, babe, I'm at, I'm at, I'm out. What? Is that a typo? She says, and I'm already home. Please, babe. She says at 9:29 p.m. He says, okay, only because I love you though. I'm gonna eat br- a brat real quick. My mom made food. She said, okay, babes, love you. She says, premium hot chocolate, dark chocolate. He says, I got you. I'll be on the way soon. She says, hurry, babe. I'm going to fall asleep. He said, on the way from Sheets at 10:09 p.m. He says, sorry, I wasn't ready to come this early. The next day at 3:03 p.m. She says, do you have dumbbells or weights? He says, I have very little shit here. She says, well, what do you have? She said, is it 10 pounds? He said, let me check. He sends a picture. He sends another picture. He says, then I have a pull-up bar and a little bench press. She says, can we work out at your house? He says, sure, I'm gonna get in the shower. He says, just come over. It's unlocked. And all that really is, though, is a curling bar. She said, where is that? How much are 2 or 4 carts? He says, 2 for 60, 4 for 110. Were you able to get a workout? She said, not really. He said, yeah, I was surprised you came for real. He sends a screenshot of something. Dom says, you're blocked from wait, let me go back. Okay. I thought I skipped something. He sends a screenshot of something and he says, you're blocked from receiving messages too now. I don't know if you knew. She says, WTF? Dom says, right? He says, what are you doing now at 8:27 p.m.? She said, with Sammy. He said, oh, okay. Do you want me to sleep over tonight? She said, if you want. He said, yeah, I'll always sleep over when I can. She says, when you come over, bring a navy blue jacket. He says, I got you. I'll see what I got. He says, I think my leg is finally getting better. She says, when you come, don't park behind me. He says, I got you. I'm gonna get a drink. Sorry, I'm getting a drink. Sharing is caring. What you guys want? I'm not drinking my coffee. If she was underage, if she was underage, wasn't she selling child corn? Yes. Now that I think about it, I'm like, yes, you're absolutely right. Why sleep over when you have your own home? I don't get it. Because they're in a toxic, abusive relationship, and he feels like if he doesn't come stay with her, she's gonna lose her freaking marbles. I seriously wonder, like, if he at some point felt like she was gonna unalive him. You know what I mean? Like if he felt it in his soul. He says, I got you. He said, you still up and you want me to bring you the jackets at 5:13 a.m. He says, I have 2 navy blue jackets. Just spam me in the AM if you need them. He says, at 7:19 a.m. Blair changed his Insta to whatever. He def seen the Blair account and got scared or something. Kenzie says, LMAO. Dom says, I wonder if he blocked the Blair account. Kenzie says, requested still. Dom says, oh, okay, we're going to have to figure out how to F with him. Kenzie says, DM. Dom says, true, that'll be easy. Hit him up and be like, yo, want to buy my mixtape? Kenzie says, I need 4 carts. She sends a screenshot of a message. He says, I'll go get them to you after school. It'll probably be for Paige. Tell her my bad. I didn't know she was finna go on break that late. Kenzie says, Audrey got the same wheel cover as me. So effing weird. Like WTF. Dom says, do you think she knew? Kenzie says, she def knew. Dom says, how did she find out? Kenzie says, even Chloe told me. I accidentally parked next to her, LMAO. She says, like WTF. Dom says, she's probably going to be terrified. Kenzie says, I know, LMAO. She says, I found his name and what class he's in. Dom says, I'll talk to you later in person about it. She says, okay, bet. She said, I'm so slow. I guess my appointment was tomorrow, but I could have sworn it was today. I literally drove all the way out here, trying not to freak out. But I did it for a reason, I guess. Dom says, aw, babe, don't freak out. Just come back and figure out your day from here. It's 4:00 p.m. She says, well, I just wasted gas and I don't have money for gas. And now I just wasted time. Like I'm literally melting. Dom says, I'll give you a couple bucks for gas, babe. You can't change the past. He says, do you want to hang out at all today? I got to run some places, so let me know. She says, I was probably going to chill with Grace. We can sleep over though. We can do hot cocoa movie night or we can do something else. He says, okay, bet. Yeah, chill with her because I got to run places. Then we can do movie night. Let me know. I'll go get the hot cocoa. Dom says, I'm going to get me some too this time. Kenzie says, I'll text my mom to pick a movie, but it has to be early and you have to be ready or else I will fall asleep. He says, I know, babe. Just try to let me know what time. He says, so I'll make sure that I'm ready. Kenzie says, I'll ask her right now. Dom says, okay, babe. At 6:30 p.m., he says, hey, you know what time we're doing movies, babe? She sends a picture of herself. She's like sitting on stairs and she has like blue Nikes on. He said, you look hot AF, babe. He says, look at that line on your stomach. She says, babe. He says, I'm guessing no movie night, right? At 9:04 p.m. She says, I mean, it was kind of late. She says, you could definitely get me a hot chocolate and come over though. I'm really tired. Or you could just come over. He says, yeah, I'm really tired too. He says, I'll come sleep over. And then it jumps to the next day, 9/8 at 7:06 a.m. Kenzie says, before I come home from school, we can drop butt off. He says, yeah, drop to who? And before Polaris, she says, to me. He says, yeah, let me know when you're leaving school. You can stop by or I'll drop to you. She said, I also need 5 carts. Dom said, bet. Kenzie said, all sold. Dom says, bet. He says, cutie. She sends screenshots of text messages. Dom says, she could have just said she'll get new toilet paper. But if you're nicer about it, it might go more your way. Kenzie said, that's what I'm saying. Dom said, I know what you mean, though. I hate the thin, shitty toilet paper. Kenzie said, it hurts. Dom said, yeah, especially because you're a girl. I got to wipe the tip. What? She said, did you bring it to my house? He said, I'm about to leave your house. He said, you're talking about the bud, right? Dom says, I didn't leave yet. Let me go home and go to the bathroom and stuff. If you can, just stop over real quick. She says, yes. Dom says, okay, bet, babe. And my bad. Dom says, okay, bet, babe. And my bad about the big nug. I must have thought you were talking about the other bud. I don't remember the conversation. He says, do you not like the shit I gave you yesterday? She said, I'm so pissed and not really. Dom says, okay, I'll give you something else. Stop over after school. He says, what time do you get out? At like 10? She said, yes. He said, okay, bet. He said, we also might have a solution to my case. She said, what is it? Dom says, I'll tell you when I see you. He says, come here after school because I want to get in the shower. She says, on the way. He says, bet. He says, you're at Starbucks. Did you already get your shit? She said, yes. I'm there. Yes. Dom says, okay, be quick, please. I didn't know you were going to go to Starbucks. Kenzie said, Kendra's coming in with me when I come over. That's why I asked. Dom says, should I put shit away? Kenzie says, nah, putting my phone away. Good luck at court, baby. He says, love you, babe. He says, it's looking kind of good at 2:24 p.m. Oh, he had court. We're about to find out why. What did I miss? I don't know why Dom didn't walk away from this psycho. I know. I'm pretty sure he was ready to leave her. She was never going to allow it. I think he was too. The more we're getting closer to the crash, the accident, whatever, I feel like he was done with her. So sad. Shake my head. Dude, all she wants is Tree, uses him, abuses him. She does what she wants. She's over there being like an escort or whatever part. Like, I'm shook. I didn't know. Like, I knew she was treating him horribly, but I didn't know to like what extent, that's why I didn't want to skip any of these because I think it's so important to like see this. It's really sad. Okay, he says, it's looking kind of good, the case. Kenzie says, what's going on so far? He says, might have to do a year diversion. She said, what's that? OMG. Dom says, it's super lenient probation. If there are any more requirements, we're doing trial. Yeah, I'm kind of on probation, not for real though. Not even though, for real. When are you going to nail appointment? Kenzie says, it's not a nail appointment, it's an eyelash appointment. I told you like 8 times. She says, so what is happening now? Dom says, that's what I meant. Not much. I just can't get in trouble. I'll explain to you later. She sends a screenshot of something. He says, I bet. She says, do you have her on Snap? She says, how much are cards? 4 cards. He says, I don't think so. He says, 4 for 110. He says, what are you doing at 9:26 p.m.? He says, I'm going to go to Michigan in the AM. She said, why? He said, go get med stuff. Get some White Castle. She says, I don't even know what that is. He said, it's burgers, LOL. She said, WTF the next day. Oh, it's midnight. She says, are you trying to effing have issues? Like, WTF. How are you not going to text me since 9 o'clock, then effing ignore me like an effing weirdo? Okay. She says, you just effed up. Dude, 9 o'clock in the morning. Oh, because it's 12:09. Or wait, no, it's 9 at nighttime. She said, you just effed up. He said, I went to bed, babe. I gotta wake up early. Sorry, babe. Love you. Okay, so she's like freaking out because he didn't text her between 9 and 12 p.m. at night. So then it jumps to 6:22 a.m. He said, I'm sorry, baby. I love you. I went to bed at 9, babe. That's my bad. I was trying to get good sleep because we about to go to Michigan. She says, well, you didn't even tell me. He says, call me on the phone if you want. My bad, not good reception. We buy straight farms. He said, do you wear 5 or 5.5? In men's shoes like Jordan and stuff. She said, yes. He said, what one? Is 5 too small? She said, no. He said, okay, bet. She said, is Jared's party tonight just friends or family? Dom said, more close friends and family. She said, WTF. Wait, that was at 5:25 p.m. Then she says, WTF at 6:15. She says, I'm gonna try to stop by before you leave. Dom says, how long till you're here, baby? He says, I'm about to dip, babe. He says, because then I can be back sooner. She said, babe, I'm going to be at your house in like 15 minutes. He says, I have to pick up B though. I don't know what to be doing while I wait for you. He says, actually, it's fine. He says, come. She said, okay, I was confused. She says, and if anything, you can just drop it off at my house so you can bring it tonight. He says, bring what? The money? He said, I thought you needed it today. She said, I do. When you're back from Jared's is also today. Kenzie says, little babe gets surprised tonight. Dom says, oh, okay. He says, well, come grab money first. I'm waiting for you, babe. He says, you up? I'm about to leave Jared's at 4:23 p.m. She says, I'm laying in bed half asleep. He says, okay, babe. Oh, I'm sorry, not 4. I meant to say 9. It's 9:31 p.m. He says, okay, babe. Then it jumps to the next morning. Well, the next evening, 9:10 at 7:18 p.m. He says, what are you doing, babe? She says, come over with Sheets chocolate. He says, I have Blair over. What are you doing right now? I still probably got to slide to Jared's. She said, for what? He said, his birthday. I don't think he's having people over. I'll come bring chocolate later. She said, oh, well, I'll have my mom get it for me then. She says, I wanted to cuddle and then drink hot chocolate though. You can just come here later. Dom says, I'm gonna make some music, then I'll come. I didn't know you'd be free. You haven't texted me. He says, okay, we're finished at 10:26 a.m. Oh, wait. He says, okay, we finished at 11:26 p.m. And then he says, good morning, babe. Are you up? At 9:51 a.m. She says, hi, babe. I'm in the bath. He says, that sounds nice. Do you still have a sore throat and stuffy nose? Because I do. What all are you doing today? Do you want to chill? Right? Are you mad because I didn't want to go to breakfast? She said, no. He says, okay, why haven't you talked to me, babe, at 1:03 p.m.? She said, I was at breakfast with my family. He said, oh, okay, I thought you were mad at me. When are we going to get this suit? Kenzie says, I'm going to go visit Aubrey at Plato's Closet, then we can go. Dom says, okay, bet. I'm running somewhere really close, then I'm a shower. She says, WTF? I didn't know running somewhere close and showering took this long. Dom says, dude, this kid took 45 minutes. Legit, that's my bad. Well, actually, it's his fault, but I just got out of the shower. I got home at like 2:20. Kenzie says, okay, when you're ready to go to the mall, come get me. He says, I bet. Give me a sec. He says, I'm on the way at 3:16 p.m. He says, here. And then they're playing dots and boxes. They start playing dots and boxes. Okay. And they're just playing this. They must be hanging out and playing. Okay. I'm trying to go through these. I don't know why they include these when they're playing. Okay. We're just going through them playing these little games. No pun intended. I'm always curious to play these games that they play. I've never played this one either. Oh, Lord. My bad, guys. I don't go through these beforehand, so I want to cheat. Oh, okay. Oh, dang, now I went too far. So she says at 7:48 p.m., who's at your house in the shitty car? He says, Kyle. He says, sorry, don't have my phone on me. She said, look for the Balenciaga hat at your house. He said, I got you. He said, I can't find it. She said, for real? He said, yeah, I'm still looking. He says, do you want to come sleep over? At 4:01 a.m. She says, he says, do you want me to come sleep over? She says, I always want you to sleep over. He says, I'll be there right now. I'm going to come over in a sec and chill till you get up. He says, damn, the door is locked. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. He says, damn, the door is locked at 8:21 a.m. on the 12th. She sends TikTok links. Dom says, dude, I'm about to search where Boardman is. Oh, it's only an hour and 15 minutes. She says, why would you bring me a car and no battery on 9/12 at 4:42 p.m.? He says, you have my battery. She said, oh. He said, yeah, I can't find my other battery too. I got to look for it. He said, it's steaks tonight, babe. Let me know. I'll get them. She said, I'll text you after my shoot. He said, for sure. She said, I'm bringing home sushi and calamari for you. He said, bet. She said, I got sushi from this place and they literally gave me the most gross shit ever. He says, what place and what did they do? What sushi you're bringing me? Is it going to be gross, right? It's not going to be gross, right? She said, babe, I don't know what to wear tomorrow. The calamari's here on the table at 9:55 p.m., she says. He said, okay, I'll come soon. Make sure the door is unlocked. She said, should I just wear my pink tracksuit? It's going to be 80 though. He says, what about one of your like corset shirts? I think it is. He says, like the gray, green, yellow one. Or yeah, the tracksuit works. She said, I already wore that. Dom says, I like the blue and white thing that tie up too. She said, what thing? Or I could wear black biker shorts with my 𝐷𝐞𝐥𝐸𝐬𝐞 shirt. Dom said, it's like a bandana looking thing that's blue and white. She said, dude, I already wore that to school. Dom says, yeah, that looks good. She sends picture of her clothes, I think. He likes her message. She said, I could wear it with my Jordan 1s. He said, yeah, then just find dope shoes. He said, yeah, ones work. He said, is it unlocked? I'm about to come. He says, she says, can you get me Sheets hot chocolate before you come at 10:18 p.m.? He says, could I just come sleep? If you really want, I can actually. It probably won't be long line. She says, yes, come sleep, but bring me hot chocolate. He says, okay. He says, if you really don't want to, you don't have to. She says, babe. He says, no, it shouldn't be long line, probably be quick. She said, okay, yay. She says, I love you, babe. Come cuddle. I'm really excited for my hot chocolate. He says, I got you, babe. Premium, right? She said, premium dark with cream, whipped. He says, okay, babe. He's being so good to her and she's just trash. I want to know who the perverted person Kenzie is to let them take her picture. I also want to know, what does she have all these photo shoots for? Sleepover at Melly's. Demonic clothing brand. Of course, Kenzie wears it. She's like, hurry up, come get me, and then starts playing games on the phone with him. Yeah, Tammy, we're addicted too. Hey, Evie. Thank you. Yeah, hit the like button and hype. Yeah, I don't know what that toilet paper was about. She's horrible. I agree, Ruth. I'm so happy to know that Kenzie cannot access hot chocolate in prison. It makes me want it though. Like, is it that good? Pink tracksuits are so early 2000s. I used to love the pink tracksuits. Um, he said, okay, so he says, okay, babe. She says on 9:13 at 7:12 a.m. that bee in the Jeep was about to try not to let me go, and I almost got in a car accident squeaking in front of her. Dom says, bruh, what a bee. Kenzie says, I know she's fat and I gave her a dirty ass look and I'm driving slow as F in front of her. Tom says, Bernie just told me the funniest story. They covered a cinnamon bun in hella salt, then gave it to BLT. Then BLT ate it and said it was gas. Kenzie says, you're effing lying. I'm dead. WTF. Literally, that shit burns. How did he not know? Dom says, dude, I don't know if BLT, he's so fried for real. He says, yeah, that had me so dead though. Kenzie says, that shit is funny as F. He says, I know I'm dying. Kenzie says, Angelo's Pizza at 3:33 p.m. He says, yeah, when? She says, right now, I'm starving. He says, yeah, bet. Give me a sec. I'll be over. She says, okay, bet. She says, want to eat in there? He says, yeah, I'm down. Should I bring that lumpy space princess roll for the way there? She said, sure. He said, I bet. He says, peeing, then on the way. He says, do you want me to drive? She says, yes. He says, okay, I'll let you know when I'm there. He says, here. She says, come. He said, inside. And then they start playing a game at 4:48 p.m. They start playing 4 in a row. They're probably waiting for the food since they went to, I think, pizza. He says, I'm going to pull up on Will at his apartment at 7:39 p.m. He says, you can come if you want. It's in the hood though. Kenzie says, I'll probably stay here. Dom says, okay. She sends a screenshot the next morning at 7:36 a.m. Dom says, damn, WTF. He says, I'ma ask Jack. Kenzie says, dude, ask. Dom says, I did. It's not him. Kenzie says, oh shit, are you serious? Well, you better tell him that there's a rumor going around that it's him. Dom says, I told him. Kenzie said, that guy was buying a perk and it ended up being a laxative and that's what happened. That is the other story. Dom says, what a R word if that's actually what happened. Shit, now he's gonna really need some perks. He says, what are you doing today? She says, I don't know, at 2:47 p.m. He says, I'm back in Strongsville. She said, I'm putting teeth gems on. He said, lit. He said, send pics. He says, if you don't want to chill, me and Blair are gonna make music. She said, should I put my jammies on? Wait, should I put my what? Oh, she meant gems. Should I put my gems on the top or my bottom teeth? She says, along the bottom of the top or the bottom teeth. I'm going to do a row right at the top of the tooth. Should I do it on the top or the bottom? He says, top teeth. She says, look at Snap. He says, Blair bought a call off, so you don't want to chill, right? He says, what are you doing now at 7:54 p.m.? He says, I'm tired, trying to come sleep. Let me know. She says, I'm just chilling right now. He says, okay, I'm gonna come in a little. She says, I'm cleaning my room at 8:46 p.m. She says, I'll tell you when I'm done. He says, okay. He says, Will crashed on my couch. LOL. She says, I just finished at 9:46 p.m. He says, bet I'll slide in a sec. She said, I might shower. Should I shower? He says, how bad do you need to? She says, I don't know. I feel like I could shower, but what do you think? He said, it's late. If you can last probably till tomorrow. Ew. She said, Will is still just sleeping at my house, LMAO. And he sends a screenshot. She says, what? Let me go back to get the date. Okay, yeah. So then it's 9:15 on 7:09 a.m. He sends a screenshot. She says, what time? She says, like, WTF. Like, why do you do this to me in school? She says, like, question mark, question mark. He says, what? I'm not doing anything. Will keeps trying to do shit. Kenzie says, I'm gonna just start going hella fun places at times you can't go. Dom said, I was just seeing if you wanted to go zip lining. She said, I do, obviously. He says, I'll tell him we gotta go after 2 if you want to. She says, but I have school. We can go if I'm back by 11. He says, I'll talk to him. Probably when you get out, though. Kenzie says, you're going to ask me to. Okay, so that was at 7:29 a.m. And then she says, are you going to ask me to homecoming all cute? Dom said, I can. I was thinking about it. Prob's going to go ziplining when you're out of school. She says, I have a Dunkin' Donuts interview at 4:00. Ah, this is when the Dunkin' Donuts comes in. Hey, witch. Usually, if you need to ask, you should shower. Widow's like, please shower. Yeah, tooth gems. Who does she think she is? Chingy? She thinks she's Chingy or something? Mandy's like, could she be any trashier? I don't know. I don't think Chingy has them. I was just saying. Dom is lucky he didn't get any fent when getting perks. Oh my gosh, could you imagine? They treat each other like toddlers. I know. Um, okay, so she says, I have a Dunkin' Donuts interview at 4:00. He said, oh, okay. She says, that was at 10:15 a.m. And she says, anytime she hit you up for a week, just let me know and I'll go drop it off to her. Dom says, I had Blair drop it to her last time. And bet I have no problem with that. What if we go ziplining after your interview? We're just chilling. Come zipline with us after your interview, he says at 2:10 p.m. She says there was a whole fight at Strongsville and kids got arrested. Dom says, damn, what? He says, who? He says, "So you don't wanna go ziplining, right?" At 4:02 PM. Dom says, "Oh, wait." He says, "So you don't wanna go ziplining?" Yeah, 4:02 PM, and then it jumps to the next day at 7:13 AM, 9:16. He says, "Wanna come over?" Oh, wait, I'm sorry, 9:15. Let me go back. I got my dates wrong. He says, "So you don't wanna go ziplining, right?" At 4:02 PM. He says, "Wanna come over tonight?" It jumps to 7:24 PM. He says, "And you wanna go to the Browns game on Sunday?" He says, "Do you have school on Sunday?" She says, "Yes, babe." She says, "I have school every single day." Oh, like online. He said, "Oh, I should sleep over. I miss you." Wait, wait, wait. Okay, so it's 9:16. Yeah, she said, "Yes, babe." She said, "I have school every single day at 7:13 AM." He says, "Oh, I should have slept over. I miss you." She says, "I have always had school every day." He says, "I thought they canceled it for the GUN threat. I guess there was a 19-year-old running from the cops yesterday. He was from Strongsville." "What are you doing after school, babe? I have been feeling depressed. I'm trying to do something," he says at 7:32 AM. She says, "Where?" "Jamal and Chris got arrested, I heard." Tom says, "Yeah, after some kid was running from the cops with no license, all the way from Medina. They just passed Jared's house." Kenzie said, "WTF?" He said, "Right?" He said, "I wonder who it was. They're from Strongsville. They deafened my grade." Rules don't apply to her, I guess. I've never been ziplining either. Is it for not wearing the hat because she just got her hair done? Um, oh, Kenzie? He says, okay. He says, "I wonder who it was. They're definitely in my grade." She says, "Right?" He says, "So are you doing anything after school?" She says, "I work." He says, "Damn, I've been feeling sad lately." She says, "I need to get a physical." She said, "Annoying AF." She says, "For a job, like how stupid." Dom says, "Physicals are super quick." She said, "I don't care. I don't want to go." He says, "Yeah, I don't know for a job though." Let me get a drink. Okay. He says, "Yeah, I don't know for a job though. It takes like 5 minutes. It'll be fine." She says, "I have to fill out a job permit too or a work permit." He said, "Is that because you're still in school?" He says, "I need to find more shit to do to make me happy. I've been feeling down." She says, "No, I'm under 18." He says, "Oh, okay, makes sense." He said, "Why didn't you text back to the other stuff I said, babe?" She said, "I'm in school. I'm reading quick, then putting my phone away." Like, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, 10 question marks. She's disregarding how he feels. She does not care. I honestly truly believe that at this point, she was over it. She was just doing it to not be alone and because she felt shitty about herself and because she was using him. She says she sends 10 question marks. He says at 7:55 AM, "Sorry, babe, I just been feeling sad and having bad anxiety, and I just wanted to talk to you. I don't know what's going on." Jared's saying it's probably seasonal depression. He says, "Good luck at work, babe. Love you." At 4 o'clock PM. He says, "Oh, wait, you don't even have work. Never mind. I'm fried. LOL." She says, "I'm at a physical." He says, "Yeah, I remember." He says, "I couldn't find anything tan in my size, but I ordered jack and pants." She said, "I guess I lost a lot of weight. I'm really stressed out now." At 4:23 PM. She says, "Guess how much I effing weigh?" Dom says, "How much?" Dom says, "You've been working out hella. You got to match your eating with your workouts, maybe." She said, "I'm really nervous. I only weigh 87 pounds." Dom says, "Whoa, weren't you like 95?" She said, "Yes." Dom says, "That's not much weight. I think you can gain it back." She says, "I need shoes for homecoming." Dom says, I need shoes too. I'm gonna send the suit I got. It's raw AF. And he sends a picture of the suit. He says, where do girls go for shoes? I was thinking about going to that DSW. She says, I like it, but it doesn't match. It doesn't match with my dress, but I really like it on. I went there for shoes. I don't know which ones to get. Dom says, I can still get a different one expressed overnight shipping. Check online if you want. She said, no, it's fine. He said, okay, bet. Yeah, I'm just about to order the black shirt too. He says, so I'll have that fit in the pic. He says, you up at 10:26 p.m. He says, okay. So then it jumps to the next day at 7:14. He says, text me, babe. Have a great day. He said, that was an accident, right? Are you okay? She says, I'm not happy at 5:26 p.m. So it goes from 9:11 a.m. to 5:26 p.m. She says, I'm not happy. He says, what is wrong, babe? Is there anything I can do? Talk to me. He says, babe. He says, my suit came wrong. Come help me pick a new one. And how are you doing? Do you want me to visit you at work? He says, Olivia hit me up for stuff. Should I just ignore her? Do you not want me to text you? Kenzie says, wait. Let me go back. Okay, yeah. He says, do you not want me to text you? She says, I love you and I want to be with you, but I'm not happy and I don't know what to do. Wow. I'm shook. She's admitting that she's not happy. And she tells him. That's really crazy. She says, I love you and I want to be with you, but I'm not happy and I don't know what to do. Wow. Kelly says, my son's girlfriend weighs about 85 pounds, but she's also under 5 feet tall. Oh, yeah. Where's Mallory? Did I miss it? I was getting way too heated. No, Mallory, stay. These kids were literally spiraling like they were the parents. It's so sad. Okay, so she says, I love you, but I'm not happy. Dom says, well, what are you unhappy with, babe? I'm ready for whatever, babe, and whatever you want to do, I'm okay with. I love you. She says, well, I don't want to be with anyone else, but I don't even know what I want to do with myself. Dom says, I don't want to be with anyone else either, Kenzie. And of course, I want you to be happy. And what do you mean you don't know what to do with yourself? He says, can I talk to you? We don't have to talk about any of this right now if you don't want to. He says, you can't just tell me that and not answer. I'm worried, babe. And he says, okay, I'm on the way, babe, at 6:32 p.m. And then it jumps to the next day. He says, I'm here for you if you need anything or want to talk, babe. I know you'll get through whatever it is. You're smart as hell, babe. Remember, there's always sunshine after the rain. Kenzie says, I think we need to either go on a break or be done. Wait, a break? Why am I not remembering this? He truly cared about her. So sad. Right, Kelly? Mandy says, I think she cheated. Yeah, something was up. That's why her attitude was changing. It all makes sense. She definitely has a side piss. She definitely has a side piece, says Tia. Be done, Dom, says Kelly. I know. I know. And they're still together like a year after this. She says, I think we either need to go on a break or be done. He says, can we talk about why? Kenzie says, we're not talking about it. Dom says on 9/19 at 2:49 p.m. Why, babe? We can't just not talk about it. If we break up, I need to know. He says, you can be honest with me, babe. She says, I need time to live on my own and be myself without having to worry about anyone else. My whole entire high school, I've just been doing shit for you, never for me. He says, "Okay, can we talk in person?" She says, "N-word, no. I just said no 8 times." He says, "You don't have to do anything for me anymore." Kenzie said, "And I feel like there's still some things I don't know that you're not telling me." Dom says, "I've told you everything. I'm okay with whatever. We can be on a break or break up. I just want you to be happy." He says, "I'm honest with you, babe. I'm not going to try to change your mind about anything, but at least I want to talk through things and get answers. I don't want to break up and be on bad terms." She says, "Neither do I, but I feel like this is just not good. And we're very toxic. Like, I did break up with you, but then you bought me a purse. And yes, it did fix the problems for a couple days, but they just came back worse." She had broken up with him. Is this for reals? Mallory says this is bullshit. Mandy said he's secretly like, OMG, finally. Lakeside Laura says she's cold. Which was says he didn't give a crap about her. Her attitude changing made him jealous. Mandy says she totally did something. Yeah. Yes, Ashbish. Who's dry now? Says Mandy. Leslie says it's crazy to read these texts because she acts like after she killed him, he was her soulmate. Wow. Did you guys know that? She had like broken up with him and was trying to? I kind of remember something about a break, but I thought it like wasn't for very long, which is probably not. Remember the door banging video? She had broken up with him too then, but still had to be available to her 24/7. Yeah, we've played it here before. It's under my videos tab. Okay, she said, I did break up with you, but then you bought me a purse. He says, if you want to go on a break, I'll be loyal. I want you to see the better side of me. But how long would the break be? I love being around, to be honest. I love seeing you and your family. Kenzie says, I don't know how long anything is going to be. I love you too, but there's a lot going on. This is on 9/19 at 2:57 p.m. She says, it doesn't feel the same, but I still love you. Dom says, can we talk in person, babe? It'd mean a lot to me. I'm not going to try to change your mind or anything. And let me bring you your shoes that are here in your jacket. She says, no, we're not going to do that. He says, okay, well, do you just, what do you want to do about this? She says, I don't know. That's why I don't want to talk about it. Dom says, well, I agree. We both need some growth and our relationship has been hard, but I'm committed if you are. So whether you want to go on a break or break up is fine. Just let me know and we'll figure it out from there because I want to be on good terms. A breakup doesn't mean a failed relationship. Your mom told me her parents broke up and got back together many times. He says, when do you think you'll want to talk about this? She said, my mom just made fillets and they're so effing disgusting at 7:23 p.m. She says, like, no wonder why I only weigh 87 pounds. She tries to make a meal. It's the most disgusting thing ever. She says, okay, never mind. Just don't hit me up then. Dom says, sorry, I was talking to Kyle and Chris. I'm sorry, babe. If you want me to, I'll come make steaks whenever. She said, no, I have no appetite now. He said, well, next time, let me know. I'll make them for you. He says, did you get my stizzy? She said, I that was at 11:14 p.m. and then it jumps to 9:20 at 8 a.m. She says, I talked to Miss Harper and she said they're probably not going to let outside people come to homecoming. She said, re-enroll in school and just do the 3-hour online class. Do you still have time? Homecoming is on the field. I'll definitely be able to sneak you in. He says, true, I'm a try, but I'm 20. Ask her if I can come if I'm 20. She said 22 is the latest year. He says, bet. How do I enroll? I'll do it right now. He says, how do I enroll? Can you ask her? What do I have to do? He says, let me know. My mom won't answer. She says, I'll go ask at 9:38 a.m. He says, I'm looking it up, but if it's 22 to go back, I'll be good. Just need residency and birth certificate and shit. But let me know anything else if you can make it easier, you know? Kenzie says, I talked to Harb. Dom says, I can't wait to see Harb, lol. Kenzie says, I'm going down right now. She loves you, I can tell. Dom says, bet. She says, don't know if it's creepy or normal, but it's okay if it helps me out. Dom says, who cares? I was going to say, tell her I miss her, but that would probably be weird. Kenzie says, I'm at the office. They're telling me you have to reach out to Miss Wingler. Dom says, oh, okay, but being 19 to 20 is fine because I'm a Strongsville resident. She said, yes. Miss Harbor said you have until you're 22. You have to tell Mr. Wingler that you want to do 3-hour online program, but Mr. Collins knows you dropped out last year. Dom said, is there any other requirements? She said, I don't know. That's all they told. Dom says, can I re-enroll after dropping out? Kenzie says, bruh, read. He says, okay. Dom says, my mom's going to reach out to Wingler. I might just say F it and finish high school. So Dom hadn't finished high school and he's literally going back to it because he wants to go to her homecoming, which I'm thinking she probably doesn't even want him to go to homecoming. She probably wants to go with her friends or with somebody else or be single. Why does she want to go to homecoming? I don't even do they they do end up going together. That's where all those pictures are from. I can't believe she's just walking all over him and doing this. I didn't know Dom dropped out either. Did you guys know that? We find out so much reading these. I did not know that. 269 says, do you notice how she says babe less during this time period? Yeah, she's really cold and she's the one now that I see that she wanted a break. I definitely think she was just moving on. Ruth says, I wish that Dom never went back. I know. He says, I might just say F it and finish high school. Kenzie says, I feel like I'll be able to sneak you in if it's on the field, but you should still try. Dom says, I'm going to just enroll. It says it's just going to be online classes. Then I can go for sure, go to formal prom if we want. Then I can maybe take real estate classes in college. Kenzie says, that's what I'm telling you to do is online school and only come in for 3 hours in the morning or the afternoon. If you go in the morning, you will see me. Dom says, I will do the morning so I can see you. She said, of course, you said the shoes were 300. She says, okay, so that was at 11:02 a.m. and then it jumps to 7:07. He says, of course Kenzie says, of course you said the shoes were 300. They were 500. Now I can't even get them. Dom said, I said they were 700, babe. Kenzie says, no, you didn't. He says, yeah, which ones? Kenzie says, you told me and my mom 200 or 300. They are 500. Now I have no shoes. Dom says, yeah, they're more in kid size. That's what I said as a guess. For some reason, they hella in kid sizes. She said, what? No, you said they were 200 to 300, not 500. Like you effed me over. Now I have no shoes. Why is she buying $500 shoes for homecoming? Watch, she starts moving in and getting over her curl treatment and she starts liking him again. I believe the breakup was part of the state's theory. Yes. Kelly's like, shut up. Yeah, $500. What? That's insane. That's insane. She says, now I have no shoes. Dom says, well, what makes a difference? What price? They still 700, babe. 700? Dom says, that's actually a good deal on GOAT. They was like 700. Oh, okay. So they're 500. She says, oh my God, they effing aren't. I literally have been telling you they are 500 this whole time. What is confusing about this? Dom says, I said they were probably 300. That's when we didn't know the price. Then I checked GOAT and they're 700. 500 at Chili Chicks is a good deal. Chili Chicks? Oh, Chili Kicks, not Chicks. Oops. Kenzie says, I don't give an F if it's a good deal. I don't have 500. Why are you being slow? Dom says, do you know where my other visa is? Kenzie says, what do you even like about me at 8:56 p.m.? Dom says, you want me to just say everything I like about you? She says, would you come make me steaks at 9 p.m.? He says, yeah, do you have the steaks? She says, no. Or peppercorn? He says, you want to just come here and eat? My mom is making the cream pasta you liked. I can make steaks tomorrow. She said, never mind, just don't come. He said, are you sure? I'll grab steaks tomorrow if you want. Giant Eagle closed at 9, I think, anyway. I can make asparagus and potatoes too. She said, no, they did not close at 9 and no. He said, yeah, they did. She says, no, they didn't. He says, oh, never mind. Damn, I guess they open. He says, I thought they closed at 10. I must have looked at pharmacy by accident. He says at 9:34 p.m. Dom says, do you want to be with me on my birthday? She said, yes, of course. Dom says, okay, let me figure out what to do. He said, might just get everyone at the club pop hella bottles. He says the next day on 9/21 at 9:47 a.m. He says, I'm about to go to the school today and enroll. She says, I need a fake ID. Dom says, no, we'll drop bans on a fat section. They won't deny us. Kenzie says, I will look really good and I still don't know what to get you for your birthday. Dom says, so I'm about to enroll. Should I do the AM online shit? I probably won't go every day anyways. She says, yes, do that. He says, so what's your budget? I need a belt for real. She says, because I won't be there every day also. I don't know, I'm broke. Just tell me what you want and I'll try to get it. She says, what kind of belt? He says, okay, bet we'll see each other sometimes then. He says, any designer belt. She says, what brand? He says, Ferragamo, Versace, probably a top two. Like the Medusa on the Versace would go hard. She sends a screenshot of shoes. She says, I lost. He says, I should have entered too. Isn't that on the Nike app? I'm about to get it. She sends a screenshot of something. He says, ooh, that's some heat. He says, True Blue 3, Space Jam 11, Bread 11. Ask them what year. Kenzie says, I asked him. Dom says, they will make a huge price difference with those colorways. Kenzie says, they are the most recent years. That's what he said. Dom said, okay, I'm driving right now. Do they have a website? I can check them out or do you got to go there? Kenzie says, it's on his Insta. A shoe guy. I don't know. Dom says, yeah, I think I've heard of him. I'll look it up. She sends another screenshot. Dom says, okay, bet. I'm going to check them out on Instagram and shit. She says, we can bring guests to homecoming now at 8:27 p.m. She says, and are you for real re-enrolling? He says, yeah, I just submitted my shit. I bet. I guess I don't need to enroll anyways. She said, no, it's still good. You still should. She said, it will be fun AF. He said, what, going to school? Yeah, F it. I can get it done anyways. She said, yes. He said, Kenzie says, you were a senior, so we're basically doing the same shit. Dom says, LOL, I'm dead. I'm graduating with my babe. Kenzie says, I lost the charm on my nail. Okay, so it goes to the 22nd at 2:44 a.m. She says, I lost the charm on my nail. I need tree at 7:08 a.m. He says, I got you. She just wakes up dreaming about the tree. Dom says, the azul charm, I'll get you another. She says, I found it. He says, nice. He said, doors open if you want to run over there. At 10:27 a.m. She says, I need tree. 4 question marks. She says, WTF. Dom says, sorry, my bad, was mounting this TV and my dad was tweaking out. Or after we're done, I'll drop some off. She says, can you drop some off right now? Dom, he says, we're doing this mount. She said, can you just drop some off really quick? He says, can you stop by? She said, I'm with my friends and we're watching a movie. Can you just come here? Why is this a problem? He said, because I'm mounting my TV. Give me a sec. She said, can you just do it now? He says, we're about to be done. I'm pretty much done pretty much. On the way, are you going to come out? She said, I can. He said, it's pouring. I can come in if you want. He said, here. And then he says, love you at 3:57 p.m. She says, love you too. So she probably just grabbed the weed and went back inside and he left. She said, do you want to make me steaks tonight? You can sleep over. He says, yeah, you want to come with me to get them? Scotty has to do my dishwasher though. I think he's about to come though. Kenzie says, probably not. How about you just go get them after you deal with the dishwasher shit? He says, yeah, I got you. She says, I'm driving Julia and Kaylee home now. Dom says, if your mom or someone is out or goes to the store, have them grab some though. Then they can be room temp when I cook them. It makes them cook better. She says, to be honest, I don't really want to cook a steak for my dad. He's been a piece of shit. She says that on 9/22 at 5:26 p.m. Her and her dad really didn't get along. I think it's hilarious that in the phone calls, they just pretend. They pretend like they have stable relationship and they pretend like one and the other is not batshit crazy. She likes prison. She can be lazy, and her mom makes her feel like she's still relevant. She is awful. Okay, she says, my dad's been a piece of shit. Dom says, what has he been doing, babe? She said, what's your belt size? He says, my waist is 30, so probably 32 belt. She says, when are you coming to make the steaks? At 6:29 p.m. He says, I'm gonna be on the way to Giant Eagle soon. She says, when? He says, Scotty's done. I'll be there before 7. She says, when do you want? So it jumps to the next day. Yeah. The next day at 10:22 a.m. She said, when do you want to meet up with that kid? Can you DM him? Dom? He says, yeah, I got you. I'm hooping right now. I'll hit him up right now. I'll meet with him after. Kenzie says, okay, I'm going to tell him my boyfriend's going to DM you and get me. Get them and I will pay you back. Dom says, yeah, I got you. Kenzie says, I told him. Dom says, okay, I hit his line. He says, that dude is in Willoughby. I'm going to meet him at Beechwood. Kenzie says, bet. She says, love you. He says, love you too. He says at 1:35 p.m., I got a haircut scheduled Tuesday. You want to help me figure out how many inches to get off? She says, yes. He said, okay, bet. He says, I'm so mad right now at 8:51 p.m. She says, why? He says, Kenzie says, I was going to ask if you're sleeping over or what's happening tonight. Dom says, Will wasted my time. Yeah, I can. She says, why? Do you want a little surprise tonight or do you want it tomorrow? Dom says, we were at his house for 1.5 hours. I'm not sure. You pick. She says, well, you have to tell me. He says, okay, tonight. When do you want me to come over? She says, whenever. He says, at 9:01 p.m. I'm still so salty. Like I could have done so much other shit. My house is a mess. I missed plays and I was on the east side for 7 hours. Literally 7 hours of my time for nothing. He says, you're probably asleep. I'll get my surprise tomorrow. And that was at 10:31 p.m. She wakes up the next morning. Oh, Dom's birthday is 9/24. Because she says at midnight, happy birthday, little nugget. I love you, birthday boy. He says, love you more than anything, baby. Thank you. He says, wait, what time was that at? The morning. That was at 12:02 a.m. And then she says, why did you say you were coming? You were going to come in. Why didn't you? He said, I figured you'd be sleeping. Wait, I figured you'd be sleeping and I was mad about the stuff, so I was cleaning my house and rolled a blunt. I can come over still though if you want. She says, apparently, if you're 20 years old, I can't bring you as a guest to homecoming. She says at 7:18 a.m. So she didn't have a shower. Hey, Yassine. I'm glad you made it. I couldn't put up with her crap. I know. Okay, she says, apparently, yeah, you can't come to homecoming. He says, LOL, I'm still enrolling though. She says, bet. I'm the homecoming court. He said, what does that mean? She says, my friend is having a party tonight. Do you want to pull up? It's at like 9:30. Kenzie says this. Sorry, I'm getting a drink at 9:51 a.m. He said, whose party and where? He says, we was finna go to the club. She says, shit, I'm down for the club too, but I want to go if we have time. It's like late AF. Chloe told me starting at 9:30. And I don't know if I'll be able to get into the club without a fake ID. I'm going to text Grace. Dom says, you'll get in. She says, what if they ID me? He says, my dude knows all the people. She said, okay, are you sure? Dom said, if he cops a section, they'll just let us through. Yeah, I'll double check for you. Kenzie says, I'm going to wear that little black dress. Dom said, bet. She sends pictures of shoes. He says, how do I join? Never mind, won't even let me log in. She said, do you like those? I was going to get you them, but my mom won't let me buy them. Dom says, they're tight. She said, I feel like a belt would be better. And I need a cart. I need like 5. Dom says, yeah, the BB belts go harder. Okay, I got you. What do they want? Waves or the yeskas? Kenzie says, you would look really good in them, babe. He says, yeah, they all go crazy for real and reasonably priced. Kenzie says, I'm going to buy you one today. When do you want your little present? Dom says, when you get out of school, I should be home, but I'll probably run to the east side at some point to pick up Will. Look at this pic. And he sends her a picture. She said, aw. He says, I know, right? Makes me so happy and sad at the same time. She says, why? Dom says, I don't know. Just love y'all. 2 most important people in my life. Kenzie said, I love you, babe. Tonight's going to be fun, and I have the little surprise for you. Dom says, bet. I'm excited. I love you too, babe. She says, I'm about to be home at 2:21 p.m. He said, this early? She said, question mark, question mark. He said, never mind. Do you want me to pull up when you're home? She says, come. He says, bet. I'll come in a sec. Kyle and Blair have been here. On the way. He says, Lucas, 9:45 now at 7:21 p.m. He says, and we should be good to get in the club. She said, okay, yay. Dom says, when do you want to come over? I'm sparking a wood right now. She said, I'm coming now. She says, do you want me to come in the dress? He says, you can, yeah. And that was at 8:28 p.m. And then the next morning on the 25th at 10:01, Dom says, I'm still kind of effed up. How is work? You still at work? She said, yes. He said, damn, how many hours you work? I feel so bad for my mom. You think your nail is bad? You should see what happened to her. Kenzie said, what happened? He said, a crazy infection at 3:40 a.m. She said, oh shit. Oh wait, just kidding. It wasn't 3:40. I read that wrong. Oh, it was at 3:40 a.m. And then she said, oh shit, at 10 a.m. She said, you need to pick a belt. He said, I know, you're going to have to ask her to see. I feel so bad. Kenzie says, I want to look at it. How did she get the infection? Dom says, and bet. Check later or when I'm with you. I don't know. She wouldn't even show me. She was crying. But she was drunk probably why she was crying. But I felt bad. She was saying they hurt bad. Kenzie says, oh God, I want to see. Dom says, dude, it's bad. Her whole fingers are swollen. He says, send me pics of us from my birthday. Oh, that one with the dinner? You guys know that picture? Oh my God, I wish I could show you guys right now. Maybe I'll pull it up after. But the one where she has like the wine glass, I've put it on a couple of my thumbnails. That was his birthday dinner. That was his last birthday ever. Like ever. So basically, Dom obeys Kenzie now. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. Listen to Abuelita. She said, hit the like button. Hit it now before I block you. Okay, so she's sending pics of the birthday and the club. Lots of pics. He says, bet on 9/26 at 4:25 p.m. She says, I guess I'm going to a NF concert tomorrow. Dom says, who's NF? She said, I don't know. Dom said, where is it at? Kenzie said, Blossom. He said, lit. She said, I'm going with Paige. Dom says, Paige who? Blue hair Paige? Kenzie says, yes. He says, I want to know what NF is. Kenzie said, what's a good idea to F someone's house up? Dom says, rice will make all their grass die. Kenzie says, okay, bet. Dom said, where are you trying to F up and how bad? He said, you can put sugar in their gas. Kenzie said, how's your nose? Nose? Dom says, my haircut is Tuesday. Tomorrow will help me figure out how much to cut off. Mine is fine. Is yours okay? Did they do Coca-Cola? He said, how is your nose? She said, mine is okay. This girl has issues, says Beth. Major issues. She's evil. Yes, his mom got like a nail infection. PP says, oh, sugar and gas is straight evil. I know. Wow. Okay, he says, mine is fine. Is yours okay? She says, hella stuffed. Dom says, yeah, I didn't F up my nose, but I feel like it put me in a shitty mood yesterday. I feel like you did more though. Kenzie says, I just slept all day. Dom says, yeah, I was asleep all day. I went to bed early though. He says, if at 9:45 p.m., he says, if you're not about a slump, you can come smoke this wood. I'm about to roll it up. Kenzie says, I'm with Lulia. We can come though. Dom says, whatever you trying to, Blair making a song. I'm about to roll it right now. Kenzie says, do you want us to come? Yes or no? It's not up to me. Tell me yes or no, or I'm not coming. He said, yeah, I want you to come, but I thought you might not want to bring Yulia if Blair and I are making music. He said, so bet coming. So bet come. I'm rolling. The term for rolling that I'm familiar with is like E. I hope that's not what he means. They had a nose wrestle. Sure sounds like it's skiing. Snorted something at the party. Who knows what it was, huh? Could have been Coca-Cola. It could have been perks. I don't know. I don't condone it. They're just doing it. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. She told prison lovers she took shrooms and the A word. He says, so bet come I'm rolling. She said, so yes or no? ... He says, my bad. I grabbed my phone out of my pocket and ended it. LOL at 9:51 p.m. She says, I need a pic of your sis. Wait, I need a pic of your, oh, of ID. I thought it said sis. I was like, what? But she said is, but meant ID. So this is on 9:27 at 8:17 a.m. He says, of my what? She says ID. He said, oh, for what? She said, homecoming. She says, you're not in anything yet. Did you re-enroll? He says, he sent a screenshot. He says, found it. It's sending. He said, not in what would you have put me in? Yeah, I should be. I'll call my mom. Kenzie says, Miss Walls literally looked at everything and she said, your name is not there yet. Are you doing online in person or solo? Solo or academy? Dom says, I have to set up an appointment. I'm not sure which one I'm doing. Kenzie says, okay, do that quick because I have to buy your homecoming ticket for you then. Dom says, we're waiting on a call. He says, how do you buy the tickets? She said, that's cool. She says, here. He says, okay, bet. I'll be done soon. Which one should I do? She said, where are you? Come in for the first 3 hours. He says, I got you. She sends a typo and he says, what happened at 9:06 a.m.? She said, ASAP. He says, I don't think I got him on Snap anymore anyway. Kenzie said, he's hiding out in Atlanta right now. The police raided his house and found all of his shit. Dom says, oh, okay. Kenzie said, he's big effed. Dom says, I don't do business with him. Kenzie said, okay, good. Dom said he posted his story. Said, tap in for wax. Kenzie said, WTF, don't tap in. Dom says, LOL, why would I tap in? And he sends, that was at 9:08 a.m. And then he sends a picture of, it looks like drinks. He said, what's the app you use? Can you see if these products are okay to use? Kenzie says, think dirty. He says, bet I found it. I just didn't know if it was the right one. My hair's like 13 inches at least. How much should I take off? Kenzie says, I don't know, maybe 2. Up to you. Are you there right now? Dom says, that wouldn't be much shorter, I feel like, though. He said, no, it's at 9:30 a.m. She said, do 4 then. Dom says, I almost feel like I should half it, but I don't want to do that much. And he sends a picture. He says, how many inches long do you think this is? She says, ask him tomorrow. Your hair is curly. I'm not sure. He says, okay, bet. He says, do you think the length in that photo is good? And he sends another picture. He says, what about this long? She says, yeah, I like it. She says, hot AF. He says, bet, yeah, I'm gonna go for shorter. He says, love you at 9:41 p.m. She says, I love you, babe. She says, my nose is effed up. Dom says, you got it, flush it out with that stuff, like saline drops or some shit like that. He said, the hair has been cut at 9:44 a.m. the next day. She says, do you want to go to the model room before homecoming with Phil and Maddie? He says, yeah. Are we going to the after party? And how do I buy the homecoming ticket? Kenzie says, we have to find an after party and I'm going to buy it tomorrow. You need to send me a picture of your ID right now. Kenzie says, they're going to the marble room. Dom sends a screenshot. And Dom says, yeah, I'm down to go to the marble room. She said, okay, bet. She said, bae, you need to give me that teeth whitening shit. He says, I got you. He says, I'll bring it over later. She said, bet. She says, want to go to the mall at 6:04 p.m.? He says, yeah, when? She says, right now. I'm going with Lulia. Dom says, you want to smoke, then go? I'm about to smoke with Trevor real quick. He's already here. She said, OMG. The place I got my shoes from literally never sent them. I'm freaking out. Dom said, what, the Yeezys? She said, no. Dom says, what shoes, babe? She said, my silver heels. Dom said, what are those for homecoming? Kenzie says, yes, they were. And I'm so sketched out now. They just reshipped them. But still, what the F? Dom says, how long will they take? He says, I'd look for some backups. And she sends pictures. He said, that's cute on you. He says, with some J's. She said, yes. She says, where you at? He says, home at 7:43 p.m. She said, what's up? She says, are you coming to hang? She says, bring the stuff. He says, yeah, you home now? He says, I'm playing 2K with Trevor. I will after. She sends question mark, now at 8:03 p.m. He says, yeah, let me drive Trevor home. Can I eat something real quick? She says, now. He says, do you want me to just drop the whitening stuff off, then come back? She said, you could just come over. He says, I need to eat dinner. I haven't eaten since 3. Let me know if you want it. I'll come right now. She says, bring them at 8:11 p.m. He says, on the way. She says, are you coming in? She says, bring me like 5 carts. He says, I got you. He said, 𝐼𝐸 or 𝐼𝐸𝐧. She says, whatever's better. He said, bet. She said, I need a cart. I'm going to go to the dispo with my dad next time. He said, let me come because I can get the med stuff. She said, when are you coming back? He said, I'll be back in 20. He said, I'm coming at 9:07 p.m. He said, send me pics after, babe. Talk to Harb. Make sure I can go to homecoming. I'm enrolled. I started on the 18th. Oh, wait. He says, talk to Harb on the 29th, the next day. at 2:34 p.m. He says, I'm enrolled. I start on the 18th. They said I'm going to start second semester. Kenzie says, are you allowed to come into the school or no? I'll ask. He says, I don't know right now. I think I'm online. I'm going to try and change that though. Let's just make sure I can go to homecoming for now. She says, babe, WTF. I need to wear a dress. Should I bring the Skims dress with a jean jacket? He says, how do I get a homecoming ticket? She says, I'm going to get it. He says, bet, let me know what's up with it. He says, I'm so mad at 10:50 a.m. I put it in a load of clothes, and when they came out, the jacket you got has black spots on it. I don't know how. Kenzie sends a screenshot of a paper. Dom says, they said I can attend events. How do I get the ticket? I should just try and go get a ticket. Kenzie says, yes. She says, or I can buy one for you, but I think it's only one per student. He says, how do I buy one online or at school? He says, let me know ASAP so I can try and get one. She said, at school, go buy. He said, okay, what do I need to buy one? I might just go up there, say I'm going to meet my guidance counselor, then go buy one. Do I need my student ID or anything? She says, when are you coming over? I'm out of tree too at 3:25 p.m. He said, soon at the mall, gotta stop somewhere on the way back, then I'll be there. She says, I'm with Logan and Gavin, come. He says, okay, give me a bit. He says, I'm past the age limit at 5:57 p.m. She says, what do you mean? Dom said, that's what they said for homecoming. Kenzie says, WTF. Dom says, right? We need to email Harb. Kenzie says, you literally just turned 20. WTF. I'm just going to sneak you in. He says, I know. And how? She said, it's outside, LOL. Dom said, first we should try and get me a ticket. Principal said age limit is 19, but like, I want to see the rules. Kenzie said, WTF. I'm going to get a guest pass. She said, send me your ID. Dom says, bet, do it. He says, I'm going to have to show my ID when I get there. He said, should I just say I'm 17? Kenzie said, no, you don't. Yes, no, you don't. He says, I thought it says guests have to show an ID. Kenzie says, when I'm buying the guest ticket. Dom says, no, you have to show ID at the door when you get into the dance. She said, WTF. She said, I'll just go to Mr. Collins tomorrow, literally start crying. Dom said, go to Miss Harb first, Mr. Harb first, and see what we can do. Miss Harb first, because she'll for sure be on our side. Then go to Collins a second option. Kenzie said, okay, you should email her. He says, I don't know if I have her email. Also, I got to see if my school account is back. And this is at 9:18 p.m. He said, it's not back. She said, email her on your account. Still works. Dom says, I don't know her email. I don't know if I want her to have my actual email. Do you have her email? Kenzie says, I don't know. He says, I might as well say F it. She said, what? Dom says, email her on my normal email. And that ends at 9:23 p.m. And we did it. We got through the next month. It's getting ready to homecoming. Woo woo. Wait, did I title this live right? Yeah. So now we're in October. Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited. They charge to go to homecoming? Yeah, they do. Well, I know they used to charge me hella. Yay! Yes, usually tickets are for sale. Yes, they are. Why not ask someone to buy the dang gone ticket? I think they check at the door. Some of his songs are in the background of her Snapchat. Great job. Okay, so here's the deal. It's a true crime day tomorrow. So I'm going to have a couple of lives. I want to do a Kenzie live early, and then I want to do another one in the evening. And then we're going to try to do 2 others in between. So are you guys down or what? I was thinking of doing an earlier live for the Kenzie people that some of you babelets that are like ahead of you're in the future ahead of me. So I was going to try to do one earlier and then do another one later. Do you guys think we can make it through 2020 one tomorrow. I think we can maybe do it. We're October, November, December. So we're 3 months away. I think we can do it, babe. Let's try for sure. Bet. Yes, it cost my grandson. Yeah, homecoming was super expensive. No, I'm talking about the text I was saying, the future babelets. Let's do it. Okay, are you guys down for like an earlier one or what? What are you guys doing during the day? I want to know. Text me. Tell me everything. Oh, Cree, you might have to make it to the later one. Finish 2021 tomorrow. Okay. Okay. I'm down. I'm down. I'm covering Ellen Greenberg tomorrow, and then I'm doing a live of multiple cases, and then I'm gonna do something else that I'm not gonna tell you guys, and then I want to do two Kenzie lives. So let's hope we can do that. I have no start. Ooh, Asain, you're available all day? Okay. Thank you for being here. You are a babelet, Weddle. All of you are my babelets. Thank you for being here, guys. I had fun tonight. I needed it. I needed this live. We can do it with you, Melly, anytime. I'm just harvesting trees this week. Okay, Rebecca. Then I must see you tomorrow. Let's finish. Okay. Abuelita said let's finish tomorrow. All right. All right. I'm down. Then I was be for them dark ages. Yeah. Um, thanks, Ash, for being here. I'm a Beyblade. Yeah, it's still early. Right now? Oh, you mean finish right now? No. I'll finish tomorrow. Mm, okay, good night, babelets. Thanks for being here. Tap that like button on the way out. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything. I will see you guys tomorrow. I will post the lives after this. I am editing a Kenzie video, so maybe I'll put it out tonight. If not, then I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here, Ruth. Shout out to my mods. Liked and hype. Please, please hype, please like. I appreciate you guys for being here. I will see you guys tomorrow. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do or that I would do, actually. Yes, please like the stream. Shout out to my mods for being here. All right. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.